Right, guys, welcome to episode 2 of the All Star Prizes podcast. So, thank you very much for joining us again. Obviously, on the first one, we spoke about my personal life from childhood onwards through to today. Then we got into Sid's, talked about obviously his brother unfortunately passing away, drug abuse, a few other bits and pieces. So all we're going to simply do is just pass the reins back over to Sid again, let him finish his story, and then we'll move to Matt and listen about Matt 2.0 and what he's been up to over the last couple of years.
Couple of 100 years.
Good to be back. You can't help yourself, can you? You can't help yourself.
Right, yes. So obviously last time we spoke about, like you've just said, my brother passing away, drugs, prison, it's pretty much all bad stuff.
Yeah.
You know, all the bad stuff, what's happened to me and what I've been through and situations I've put myself in. But then we sort of left off where I'd come out of prison, I'd got a job which was only made possible by qualifications I gained in prison and stuff like that. So it wasn't a complete waste of time. I actually benefited from it by taking away these skills and stuff that led me to be where I am sat here today, you know, sort of thing. So I did like about 5-6 years working, you know, on roads, so like utilities, you know, gas, electric, you know, all underground utilities. We're doing tarmacking, stuff
So a lot
like
of
that.
all sorts like civil engineering sort of
Sort
stuff.
of, yeah. So
He likes to remind me every single time that we drive
and he
through.
likes to remind everyone
Hales.
everything.
I put that lamppost
Yeah, no,
in.
that's what he does.
Is that what it is? Seriously?
And
what
it's
he goes.
still, listen,
Every-
it's still there and it ain't wonky, so I did it
Every
right.
time we drive down Errol's, he looks at me and he goes, I put that lamppost up. I know you've told me about 6 times.
Yeah, so what I did is I was doing the same job, so I was working in utilities, whether it was street lighting, gas, electric, it's all the same sort of field. I'd put myself through my HGV licence so I could operate grab lorries, doing all that, and I'd sort of done everything what I could to get myself as high paid as I could in that field.
Yeah.
And then, don't get me wrong, it was good, it was nice, we're earning good money. Obviously I had a missus and kids to fend for, but I just didn't see myself getting any further. You know, I was like, right, I was like sort of capped. There was a roof on what I could earn,
Yeah.
what I had to pay out, stuff, obviously kids, holidays, all that, and I wanted to buy an house, and that was my goal is to buy an house.
Right, okay. And you were never going to do that in that job because of...
I couldn't earn enough, I couldn't get a mortgage, and the only other, if you can't get a mortgage, you've got 2 options, haven't you? Don't buy an house or save up and buy one with your own money.
Yeah.
And both of them were unrealistic and obviously not reachable.
Mm-hmm.
So I started looking at, I wanted a career change. Again, there was no wrong with job or it was just I thought I need to do better. And I started looking into franchises. A couple of them, what you've probably seen on like Auto Glass, these smart repairs, Snap-on, you know, stuff like that. So I started researching all them. Again, I didn't have a clue about any of the jobs, but I thought, well, I'll just learn. Anyway, one Sunday, I wasn't working. I used to work every Sunday, and this one Sunday I wasn't working. I was sat in the house, looked through Facebook, and I seen this service offered to people. Never heard of it. It was called Engine Carbon Clean. Straight away went on Google, couldn't find anything about it. So like, I had this little bit of a like look at it, think, oh, what's this, what's that? Couldn't find any information whatsoever, so I just put it to the back of my mind. Anyway, the following Sunday, I'm in the exact same place, on Facebook again.
Sound sofa, not working.
On Facebook again, looked, and it was there. And then I thought, it's something about it just grabbed me, and I think it was because there was nothing to compare it to. So I'm thinking, this is new.
Yeah.
And from what I can see off the feedback of what this guy's customers were doing, I could see that they were happy, and what the service they were providing, they were obviously happy customers at the end of it. And I thought, right, I need to get into this. And that's what I did. That was like my first successful sort of business. I bought into this franchise.
So had you say, obviously leading up to this point, had you saved a bit up for, you know, an occasion such as this when a business opportunity had come across?
Again, 25 grand I saved 25 grand up.
Yeah, not a little amount of money. Then.
And then I got to do this I got speaking about this franchise. All other ones I'd looked at were like 80 grand, 100 grand, to join. You know, like such as Snap-on.
Snap-on's
like
really expensive.
Big, you've got to put a lot of money out.
Yeah.
You've got to have a good credit history. Stuff that I didn't have. So again, they were just too far away for me to even think about. But then I saw this new one, and I actually signed into it for £3,000 plus VAT.
Wow.
Which is not bad.
It's
Not bad at all.
I was working at the same time, and the lad I was working with, I was like, do you want to do this with me? 3.5 grand we'll put in. We'll go buy a van. We'll do it after work. Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, nah, I'm not interested.
Similar to All Star.
Yep. So I went, do you know what? That's fine. After I'd signed up and people started to hear about it, they were like, I'll go after it. And I was like, nah, I've done it now. It's one of them.
You've already shelled money out. And
So I think it was about 3 months. I'd got this brand new business nobody had heard of. No one heard of it. It were like trying to sell a product that didn't exist, or up until now it didn't exist. And for some reason, I just did it really, really well. Like,
what? Just you took to it.
yeah, I was finishing work in Leeds at like 2:30, 3 o'clock. I was getting out of my uniform, into my other uniform, into my van. And then I was out while 9, 10, 11 at night, 6, 7 days a week. I think it was 3 months later, I went and bought my house, my first house.
So after 3 months,
3 months, yeah, I went and bought it for cash. Skimped myself.
wow,
When I say skimp myself,
that's impressive though, mate. Very impressive.
so I've now I'm renting an house. I've got Mrs. 2 kids. Just bought this other house and literally left my son with, I think my wage was going in that week, which was 600 quid. But my rent was due, which was 500. So I had £100, this building, no other money whatsoever, and then this business. So I'd literally skimped myself and gone back to
zero
gone back
again.
down. Anyway, from that, I had the house I bought, you couldn't live in. So it wasn't a case, I'll just go live in it and do it. Well,
It were a wreck.
it was bad, yeah. So I had to, I don't know if you say hungry, what word, I think, yeah, hungry. I had to work even harder to get this money in, to get this house done, so that I wasn't renting. And
Yeah.
again, another, I think 2 or 3 months, we did that again, fully refurbed it, and I'm broke again. But this time, rather than going to work on Monday morning, I quit. So I just rang my boss and I says, I'm not
Not
coming
coming
in.
back in.
No, and he was adamant that I won't last and that I'll be back.
Everyone says that, though.
He'll be back. He'll be back.
Yeah, cause I just want to briefly touch on this, actually, because I don't know about yourself, Matt, but definitely what Sid's just mentioned there, I experienced that as well when I first started
You do every
getting
time.
into business. And even from my own mum, I remember having a full-blown argument with my mum on the phone when I said, look, I'm leaving that school, I'm starting my business, I'm starting Stage Media. And I don't think it's through, at first, it used to anger me, and I thought it's just because they don't want you to do better. But then I realised it's not that, it's because as a society and as just normal working people, it's drilled into you that like your life cycle is meant to be where you go out, you get,
a slave to the system.
Essentially, yeah, you go out, you get a job, you pay into the system, you pay your tax, you pay into a pension, you buy your house, you retire and you die. And that is literally
Correct.
it. And so many people are stuck in that cycle at the moment. And then I realised it wasn't through, when friends and stuff and they were trying to put me off and all the rest of it. And you find when you first start your business, nobody celebrates it, nobody shares it, nobody likes it. And it's just pure fear because people are so set in their ways and, they're scared if it fails. But I think that's what sets an entrepreneur, so like you, and taking that risk and that chance and quitting your job, Sid. I think, fair play, and I take my hat off to anybody that's got the bottle and the balls to go do that, because it's a massive step, especially when you've got kids and responsibilities and a partner and stuff, because you're thinking, oh shit, I'm the provider, I've got to make sure that there's food on table, I've got to pay the rent, I've got all the rest of it. So it is a massive step, and I take my hat off to anybody, because when you first do it, you find there's hardly anybody around you that supports you, and they're so scared to take that first step. And again, like you said, it's ingrained in you from school. That's the cycle. That's what you're meant to do. And to break away from that is a big step. So yeah, fair play. I take me out off to you for that.
Yeah.
So
I like it's when you're in a situation where you've got no other option to do something. Do you know what I mean? So it's either it's sink or swim in it. You can either sit back and wait for work to come in and hope that you get busy and you go out and you earn your money and you be able to live your life, pay your bills and that, or just got to push for it. And like I said, I just took to it like a duck to water.
Did it help? Did it help at the time as well? That obviously, when engine carbon cleaning were a new thing, that it were being well received and
yeah, mate. Honestly, there were myself and another guy from Northern Ireland, and he actually started with a grant through Prince's Trust. I think it was, yeah. So he comes over from Northern Ireland. Me and him would do training on the same day. I paid my money there and then in cash, as you do.
pound notes.
So I paid mine there and then. I waited for my machine and I went and got my van and I was ready to roll. He was a month or two after, but I'd say, hands down, between me and him and the following we created for that business then, which brought on new franchisees in different areas, you know, going as from, I don't know, Manchester all the way to Florida.
So it didn't just stay in this country?
No, we turned it into a multi-million-pound business within a year. And it was absolutely going mint. It was really, really good. But then I think this is the same way anything new, greed comes into it.
and then the market gets saturated because somebody sees something good and thinks, I can
I'll
do
have
that.
a go at that.
Yeah, oh mate, you were getting people offering to, you know, we'll cut your grass and then do your engine carbon clean. This is God's honest truth. They were just trying, they were buying this machine or the cheaper version from China and they were just trying and then undercutting it, which watered market down and did change everything. But at like the first year or two, we absolutely smashed it on another level. We went out and smashed it. But then company, they got greedy. We used to give 20% of our earnings off the top. 20% of whatever you made off the top, you had to get to them for their branding and stuff. I would handing over like 3,000-4,000 every single month in commission to them, which I didn't mind.
Yeah, because they didn't mind you start. And
I was getting over 80%.
Yeah.
I was loving it.
Yeah.
But they wasn't spending any money on advertising. They weren't spending any money to benefit as an whole. We were like literally doing it all ourselves, giving them all the money out of it, and then we were getting nothing in return. So I ended up leaving. So I quit that, left, and then continued, because I didn't motor trade anyway, I continued with like DPF cleaning, remapping, which is what sort of brought us together, wasn't it?
Just going back to that then, because I've always, even I don't know this, and I'm quite intrigued to know where it came from. How did the whole remapping thing start then? Like, because it is, I don't know, like for me, you've got to be pretty mechanically minded in the first place to get into it. It's not something where you can just wake up one day and go, right, I'm going to do remapping.
No. So when I told you I was looking into franchises and other stuff like that, Facebook advertising back then, it wasn't nowhere near like what it is today. Probably 5% of what you'd see then to now, you know, in terms of adverts on Facebook. Remapping were one of them. So I'd spoke to a few companies, got a few, and I thought, oh, too technical for me. That's nah, not for me. So I put it to the back of my mind. Then when I did this engine carbon clean business, there was another company that did a carbon clean called TerraClean.
I've heard, I've heard of them.
They actually started first, and they had.
So they're the ones that like pioneered the whole process.
No, because it's a totally different method.
Right. Okay.
Totally different method. So we are the best. We're on what's it? Ed China. You know what I mean, don't you? That Mike Brewster, is it?
No idea what you're talking
the car
about.
thing. They had this car program, and they were on there.
Right. Okay.
Oh, Mike Brewster, yeah.
Mike Brewer.
Him, yeah.
Yeah. The one that he did the car fixing up program.
That's the one, yeah. And they had his
Bangers and
mechanic Ed
Cash,
China.
Yeah, Bangers and Cash.
And then had his mechanic, that Ed China.
Yeah.
And they promoted it. So they were like we used to get so much hate, and I mean like Ice Cream Van Wars hate. It were like I'd wake up and there'd be some guy in Chuffin, Southampton, who's a mechanic and does TerraClean, and just going down all my posts and replying to my customers and calling us scammers, and it was bad. the amount of grief we used to get from them. So Terra Clean and Engine Carbon Clean, it were like a war, do you know what I mean? Us v them. So this is still going on to getting into remapping. So I'm out and about at a few garages and they're doing remapping. So I start asking questions and they're like, so who'd you get your files off? I'm like, oh, so-and-so. Who'd you get your files off? Like, oh, so-and-so. Kept saying same name. And I rang him, we had a little chat, and he asked me what I did. And I says, I do carbon clean. How many of them do you do? I said, 100 plus a month. I'm like, chuffing hell, 100 a month. I said, no, I'm Terra Clean, me. Straight away, I didn't like him. Honestly, that's straight away instant thing. I thought, I'm not working with you. You're them, this is us. And that's how it was. Carried on going out to work. Met a few other people. Who'd you get your files off? Same guy. Sean, same guy. So I'm like, right, ring him up. So rings him up. I goes to his house that night and I'm like, right, I ain't got a clue what I'm doing. Here's my money for my tool. Here's my money for my laptop. You go get them. Give me a shout and we'll do it. And that's how it became. And it's funny because the first person who remapped my work van, my Engine Carbon Clean work van, were buying files off the same guy, right? So he was technically, and I'd say this to this day, he's the one who like really got me into it because he were like, and I know this is going to sound awful, but well, if he can do it, I can. And I don't mean any disrespect.
Is it very technical though? Because obviously I know
if you don't
said,
know what you're doing, you're screwed.
Because obviously you said when you started up, you got your tool, you got your laptop. Now it still baffles me to this day from the minute I met you, knowing what you do, because you are hopeless with technology.
Yeah, that's not necessary.
I thought he was going to massively shoot himself in the foot there. We're waiting. I gritted my teeth waiting for what he was going to say then.
No, but he is like he genuinely. You're not massively computer illiterate.
I am not up with technology whatsoever. I can do everything that I need to do to do the job.
And
after
mad,
that, I'm not interested in
it's mad because you've got such a good reputation in the industry.
I've got nothing to like. When you go on and you do all your little, mate, you might as well speak
control
Japanese.
And shortcuts.
Yeah, it don't mean nothing. Matt always laughs at a type like that.
Yeah, like proper granddad typing skills.
I learned what I needed to get job done, basically. Yeah. But yeah, the first guy, Grindle, is called. So he mapped my van for me, and I used to love it because when I was going to Brid, I could take over cars. Whereas before, if a lorry were in front doing 50 and I tried taking over in my little Peugeot, it were like life and death. And then he puts this little remap on and I'm like, oh, I've got this extra lease of life. I can actually get round to him. So he sold me on it from that. And then I thought, well, if I'm happy, I've just paid him. I'm over at moon. So I thought other people are going to be, do you know what I mean? And that's...
Do you know what I think's different between me and you? From what you're telling me, you have never been sort of like risk adverse. So you've always taken a chance no matter what. Whereas I'll tell you,
to an extent, yeah.
Yeah, when I were completely different up until I were about 29-year-old. I don't know why I had this horrible mindset where I used to think that something's got to go my way. I've got to get a bit of good luck. Something's going to happen and I'm going to change my life. And it wasn't until I must have been coming up to 30-year-old. And it were like a lightning strike moment where I realised something snapped in my head and thought, no one's coming to help me. No one's coming to save me. No one's going to give me an opportunity. Nobody's going to put anything in my lap.
Nope.
I am the only person that can do it. And if I don't do it, no fucker's going to do it for me.
Correct.
And it took until I was almost 30-year-old for that to snap in my head.
So about 15 years ago.
Yeah. No, I'm only 36. I know I look a lot older. But yeah, so it was like a lightning strike moment. And then I thought to myself, well, I need to get off my ass and do it. And I think still to this day, there's a lot of people out there that still have that mindset. Yeah. Even in the 30s, 40s, and they think something's got to change. Something's going to happen. I'm going to win lottery or something's going to... Listen, it just does not happen. And... my life completely changed after that because I thought to myself, I'm not doing it for anyone else. I know this sounds really awful, but I'm not doing it for my kids. I'm not doing it for my family. No. I need to get off my ass and do it for myself. And that's when I started taking chances and taking risks.
I'd failed about 6-7 times in the process of winning once. Do you know what I mean? I'd failed where I've right, I'm going to do this. And it were always summer where I never quit my job. Do you know what I mean? I never quit my job. I tried putting every bit of spare time into another business, whether it were a courier, fencing and deck, you know, scrap metal, anything. And it never succeeded until obviously this Carbon Clean. Listen, I did get lucky. I seen it and I were on it like instantly. And everyone around me were telling me not to do it. For £3,600, including my wife at the time. Are you sure it's a lot of money? I won't waste it on that. And I'm like, I'm doing it. And definitely changed my life from that one decision.
Well, see, like that's the one thing I know. Like I've spoke quite highly of Jane, the kid's mum, in the past on the first podcast, but that's the only little downfall I would say with her when we were together is I did always have an entrepreneurial side, and I tried. So I'd done a number of businesses. I did the bespoke DJ stands, which were absolutely amazing. They were so beautiful. Worked with this master cabinet maker, and they were all fully bespoke. It said Technic stamp side. They were just beautiful, really, really nice. That business failed, and every time. So the reason why I mentioned Jane is because she, at that time, wasn't that way out. She was very much like how my mum used to be. No, just go out, get a job,
do your 9 to 5,
yeah, do your 9 to 5,
yeah.
Let's build this family and stuff. And they could never see the logic or my reasoning in wanting to build a business. And I tried absolutely everything similar to you, Sid. I had the DJ stands, I did e-tables, I did a fire plan business where I was designing fire plans and stuff. I did absolutely all sorts, and not one of them worked. And I think it's very easy at that time to throw your towel in and say, right, enough's enough. And I think that's why they say a lot of businesses fail within the first 12 months. And that's for a couple of reasons, is because when it starts to get tough and people are used to a lifestyle, they're used to going out and getting the latest iPhones or the new clothes and this and that.
Look at us, we All Star. If we'd have been solely relying on that, we wouldn't have got to 18 months, 12 months.
We'd have failed.
We'd have 100%. Failed miserably.
And I think because people get used to a certain lifestyle that it brings by being employed, and you're used to having a constant flow of money. When I started Stage Media, there were times by end of week and stuff where I didn't have a pot to piss in. And somebody, by the grace of God, would come through and say, oh, Matt, I want some flyers and a business card and this and that and that. And by the time I totted it all up, there were about 600-700 quid profit in, and I'm like, yes!
Jackpot,
like,
I've won.
Yeah, you do not understand, to a small business owner and a sole trader, how much you might think, oh, it's just some business cards, or it's just a candle, or it's just this and it's just that. But let me tell you, they are throwing a party on the other end of that chat or that phone call, because they're like, fucking hell, that's just saved my life this month.
You've got the week's money, you can relax.
Yeah. So I totally understand everything that you've spoke about. Like, I can completely relate with it.
Well, one thing I always did, and even when I were like taking drugs, and I always worked. I've always worked, always like had that ethic of getting up, going to work. Like I said, with utilities, I was doing 6-7 days, more or less 7 days a week, every single week. But I was like I said, I had responsibilities. I had a wife, I had 2 kids that I had to pay for. So if I didn't go out and earn this money, they didn't eat. If I didn't pay rent, they were homeless, not just me. So that made it a lot harder, but it also gave me more, I think, fuel, because with what I was earning and paying out and to live, that made me see more like, hang on, I'm going to be like 60-year-old before I can own an house, or I get tied into a mortgage for 30 years, and I'm like, I can't wait like this.
No.
And then that's why it just, like I said, it makes you hungry. I think, like when you say, when you've been to the bottom, you know what it's like. It gives you more fuel to get going, and it does make you more hungry, and
it does, because you know,
graft more.
Yeah, you never want to go back there. This is the thing, and I still remember it to this day. With in particular, I think it was Bella, because Harrison was still very, very young. But Bella was fully aware that we had nothing.
You were skint.
Yeah, we were skint, basically. We didn't have a pot to piss in. And I remember when the money first started coming in properly from Stage Media. I want to say money coming in, I don't mean big amounts, but when you've gone from having 1,200 quid a month and like absolutely nothing left after you've paid everything, to having a couple of grand in bank, and you can start to do things and go out and stuff.
When you get that first grand, and you'll know this yourself, so when that first £1,000 is put away in savings, whether it's in your drawer or in your bank, like how much of a nice feeling is that when that's there and you've still got your money in your pocket, your bills are paid, but you've got a grand.
Yep.
How much, how
it's
big
a
of an achievement
it's
is that?
unbelievable. And I say this to people all the time. It's like, and I try and get it through to winners as well. When they win a big chunk of money, is put some of it away, because I can tell you the best night's sleep you will ever have is when you're not worrying about money.
Yeah.
And you can wake up next day and you know that your bills are covered, you've got some money in bank. I used to call it a safety net. Now my safety net has always grew. So when I first started Stage Media, and I know this is going to sound ridiculous to some people, but if you've never owned a business, you won't understand this. But my safety net were 10 grand. So I'd worked and I'd put this 10 grand away. I'd lived like I had no money whatsoever. I want going out. I want having nice meals. I want buying myself stuff that I wanted, which is, you are tempted. You'll know this yourself. When money starts coming in, you think, oh, I'd love to go buy this watch, or I'd love to do this. I'd love to do
Cars
that.
with me, it were cars.
Yeah, very similar to myself.
What did you say? It were 5 years before you decided to buy the R8?
Yeah, so like, yeah, good point. So that's his fault.
Yeah,
it's his fault. But I'm glad.
Swiftly moving on.
Glad. No, so obviously we get on to later in life. I've got my business. I've done the carbon clean. I've opened JFS and what have you. Then met Matt. Now, even to that point, I was doing well. I'd quite well easily say I was very comfortable before All Star in terms of I owned a couple of properties, no mortgages. I had a business and lived on farm and nice. I had Amarok or something at the time, I think it was.
Yeah, that's you bought Chelsea that for Christmas, didn't you? I still remember that to this day when you sent me a video, because you had it parked in the garage on the dyno room, and then on Christmas Day you opened it up and it had a big bow on it.
Yeah, and I had all kids' bikes there, motorbikes, so I bought them and then that. So it was like, I always, do you know, like, now it's totally different. I've changed my mindset, but do you know when you've had life's been so shit and like then it becomes good, you get scared
that it's going to change again.
It's going to
spend your money
again.
Yeah.
You get scared to spend your money. You get scared to enjoy yourself, right? Because you just think, well, if I have that extra holiday, or I don't do this holiday on a budget and I go all out, yeah, I can afford it right now, but then what if I break my leg tomorrow?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I was scared. I was scared to go out and treat myself. I'd always wanted a supercar, and like you say, it was because of that div. Why I've got one sat in my garage now that I don't use.
Just the reason why he's calling me a div as well is because I'm super impulsive. So like touching back onto what you said then. So, this 10 grand safety net for me, which sounds ridiculous to most people, but when you've got bills and children and overheads for your business, and, 1 month there's a potential where you might not earn something, or at the time I did motocross, like if I fell off my bike and hurt myself, you just needed something there as a safety net. So I still remember Bella being like, when I'd take her out and she's going, no, Daddy, don't spend this, like save us money and stuff. She was scared as well because she didn't know. But like, going back to what you said there about the cars, so it was so funny. So I had a very similar mindset to him, but then I thought to myself,
fuck it.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was. So what happened was we were going to Redline Specialist Cars, and obviously we were doing business with them for All Star, buying bits and pieces, stock and all sorts of stuff, and we were going up there on a regular basis, and they had
a kid in a candy shop. That's what it was. Matt was a kid, Redline was a candy shop.
Yeah,
and he was fucking hungry. He was hungry. But he wasn't just hungry where he wanted to go get like a chomp or a Freddo off at side.
He wanted a bucket of fucking pick and mix.
Listen, he wanted a barrel full of pick and mix, and that is exactly what he went and did.
So there were, I still remember it were a bright yellow
JCB.
Yeah.
I'm Luke, I'm 5, and my dad's Bruce Lee.
That's exactly what I used to sing to him.
There were an actual video that we did as well. Do you remember when we were looking around and you looked at cars because there were that funny face.
It's on the intro. It's on the intro video for the live draws.
So there was this bright yellow Porsche GT4 RS, and it was stunning.
Slow.
Absolutely stunning. And I walked past it loads of times. And I kept saying to Sid, I'm going to own something like that one day. And he's like, yeah, you're living in a dream world and all this lot. And at the time, I'd gone and bought that RS6, if you remember.
Yep.
So I had
it's
the
my dream car. I'm going to keep it for 4 weeks, spend 8 grand on it, lose 20 grand, and then go buy a Porsche.
So do you know what? Cars are massively my thing. Like 100%.
Matt, they're not. They're not. No,
not
buying
in terms,
them,
not
yeah,
in terms
but
of
like,
investment.
investment. No, they're not.
But I'm a massive petrol head, and it's one thing that I've always loved, and I will do to the day that I die. And I bought this RS6, and anyway, so then I seen this GT4 RS, and it was just stunning. It was like the next step up, similar to what Sid said, supercar level of car. And I just always wanted one, and I kept walking past it every time we went up there, and I thought, do you know what?
I'm doing it.
I'm going to pull the trigger. And I'm sure at time you went, no, you won't. Come on, Dad. Yeah.
So were you with him when he bought it then?
No. What he used to do, whenever he had his silly ideas, this is how it works. He'd take Liam, or say like he'll take you. Right? He'll take you, and he'll be trying to justify what he's doing. Oh yeah, but think if I get rid of this Porsche and get, I don't know, a Ferrari with more seats, I can put kids in and they'll love it, and there's this and there's that. So he talks himself into it, he justifies it in his own mind. Then all he needs is somebody such as you, Liam, whatever, to stand outside and go, yeah, Matt, I agree.
Now, do you know what? Right, he might have those friends in his life. But do you remember when I went with you to drop off a certain vehicle that you were putting on sale or return?
Yes.
And we had loads of stuff to do this particular day, right? And he says, right, we'll fly up here. He says, we'll just take half an hour out of the day. We'll run up here. We'll drop this car off with these keys and V5 and stuff. They're going to sell it for me. Yada, yada, yada. Going to get me, going to get some money back. I'm like, yeah, okay. At this point, you'd bought a different car to replace it, a more sensible one.
Yep.
Goes and drops the keys off. And literally, it's a straight shot at red line from where the doors open. It's a straight shot to the car parking spaces. As soon as I saw him veer off to the left, and I just said, what did I say to him? I went, don't do it. Don't do it. You're going to end up with something. You're going to end up with something.
To defend myself, right, I did actually say... Right.
Did you?
Let me explain.
Answer the question first.
Yeah, I will answer your question, but I need to give a bit of a reasoning behind it. So I did to defend
self-justification moment.
To defend myself at the time, I did actually say to Redline, I went, I'm not coming in your main showroom, so come outside and meet me to get keys.
Oh, so you tried?
I tried. I went, I don't want to see what's in there, because I'll see something and think, oh, I've never had one of those before.
Yeah.
And for a while, I had my heart set on one of those McLaren 600 LTs.
Yep.
And I thought, if I go in and there's one in there...
And there was a blue, there was that lovely dark blue one in there, wasn't there, Matt?
So I thought, I'm not going in. I'd had my sensible moment, and I thought, I'm going to sell it. But then that beautiful green BMW M4
competition.
Oh, yeah.
It was just...
Another one that can't go fast in a straight line.
So yeah, anyway, to cut long story short, so obviously I'd been a bit impulsive with cars, and I think that gave the confidence then to you, Sid, to go pull the trigger and think, well...
Right, yeah, and again, I'm not trying to, like, brag or, like that, but yeah, I could have, like I said, I could have done this with R8 a few years ago.
Yeah.
But I didn't, because I would always, like, imagine I could spend XYZ on this car, and then something happens, and that goes wrong, and that goes wrong, and that goes wrong. I thought, I'm screwed. So I wouldn't ever do it, but then after seeing you do it so many times, I just thought, you know what?
If this idiot can get away with it every week.
He's done it. Listen, I've watched him do it. I've watched him get some of the best cars and then some of the worst financial fucking decisions he's ever made in his life. And he's still here and he's still smiling. I thought, you know what? If he can do it 5 times, surely I've got at least one image, you know what I mean?
And it has brought you some joy, that car, hasn't
I
it?
loved it, yeah.
And do you know what? Not only that as well.
I don't regret it whatsoever.
Every like show every sort of outside event we've done and we've brought it, it's not only brought you joy, but everybody else as well.
Yeah,
the kids sitting in cars.
Yeah. I done, so like, you'll get people.
Oh,
where
it's
got
class. We'll go to these events and stuff, and they've got cars very similar to Sid's. So you're talking Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and they bring their own little red rope with them, and they rope it all off, and like you can't breathe too close to it. So it boggles, like we go to these, especially these motoring events where it's full of like pure thoroughbred petrol heads. And Sid's just giving his keys to a 12-year-old who's absolutely redlining shit out of it and frying engine.
You see, that's it. Yeah, it's a lot of money, but I don't look at it as like it's my money. It's a car at the end of the day. It's a piece of
It's a
metal.
piece of metal. Yeah.
It makes me chuffing happy. Our Jack loves it. Like our Jack's absolutely obsessed with it. And like I say, at these events when I just or like proms, taking kids to prom. Or at
We
the
both did that
events,
this year, and that were really nice. That we both went out at the same time.
Oh, we had
Stressful.
some graft on.
Yeah.
there was some graft.
It's proper
There's a lot
stressful.
more to it than just I'll take you to prom when you've got 3 in the same day. And I mean, you had it bad. You did have it bad.
I made,
To be
somebody
fair, though,
cry.
To be fair, were it because is it your mum that works in a school?
Yeah.
And I think your mum were touting you to like every kid in school.
Oh, that were awful. That.
Every 5 minutes, my mum's ringing me again.
Yeah, no, on it. So she had they had a school fundraising event, and she said, "Oh, can you? I don't have it anymore, guys. Like it was just something I had to get out of my system. But I had that Ferrari 488.
Yeah.
And
well, this is the first one or the second one?
I don't know, but
no, genuinely, I think the 488 was the third.
the convertible was the first one.
The Spider, and then the
Then
GTB.
I like that
then
best.
the Portofino that you went for 3 days.
Yeah, which were absolutely shit. I'm not gonna lie.
And anyway, swiftly moving on. So she like they were ringing me constantly, and she's going, "We're having this school event, and can you bring it up and put it on display?" And then it went from that to, can we fill it full of balloons? And then the parents have got to guess how many balloons they're in. And I went, for God's sake, right, go on then. And then I pulled it up at the school and they put it in the playground. And then they filled it up with balloons. And as they were filling it up, right, they were climbing on top of the sills. They were climbing on top of all carbon fibre. And then when kids were coming over, they were putting all their hands and stuff on, and like practically licking the window, like to look through and see how many balloons they fought. And then they started playing football in front of the car.
I bet you were a nervous wreck.
I was like, just count these balloons now. Get them out of the car. I'm off home. I'm taking my ball home and I'm off home. But no, just touching base on what you were on about then with Sid, and I had that exact same attitude because as a kid, don't get me wrong, obviously we know All Stars done really, really well now. I was in a position where I had what we spoke about in the first episode. I had the IVA. I couldn't go out and I couldn't get a mortgage. I couldn't go out and buy property and stuff like that. So, it's no hidden thing that All Stars done pretty well now. It's still growing. We're still a relatively small business, but it's doing all right, which has given us the ability to be able to have a couple of treats like this. But similar to what Sid said, we've both come from nothing. So when I used to take the cars out, like Motorist is a prime example, and I'd have the car packed up and it would bring in a lot of attention. There'd be kids coming over, even at petrol station and stuff. Mums and dads would come over with the kids and going, "Oh, can we take a photo with the car?" I'm like, listen, you can sit inside there, do what the hell you want. The car's not made of chocolate, it's made of metal. Sit inside, take photos, do what you want. And I did not give a shit because
same at Run, you used to take a lot of people up and down.
Up and down, yeah. Because at the end of the day, right, as kids, you've got to think, right, that single moment within that kid's life might be the catalyst to inspire them to go on and think, do you know what, I'm going to get my head down, or I'm going to go out and I'm going to start my own business, I'm going to do this and do that,
and I want one of them
because I want one of them. And it's very similar. So Ferrari Leeds JCC 600, I once had a conversation with them. Let me tell you, first of all, I got this completely wrong. I thought that them as a business would be the most snobbiest, awful people you could ever deal with. And they were
dealing with Ferrari customers.
Dealing with Ferrari,
yeah.
And they were at one of the best experiences I have ever had with any car dealership. And he once told me,
before or after they took your engine out after 4 days.
Yeah, well, that's another story we can get into at another time. But I still remember to this day, the guy said to me, he went, "We get people all the time, whether it's young photographers, families, kids and stuff, and they'll come to the showroom and they'll stand outside looking through the glass at the cars." And he said, "I will purposely go out and bring them in,
fair play,
and sit them down, let them sit in the cars, talk to them like they were going to buy a car." And he said, the reason why I do that, and it took me away, to be honest, and I thought, well, do you know what? Fair play. They said, because you don't know if that child one day is going to aspire to own one of those cars, they might go off, they become a doctor, they become a lawyer, and the one memory, the core memory that they're always going to
They're
have
going to go back
Is that
there.
they were well treated at least.
They're gonna go
Ferrari.
back there.
is, do you remember that time when Ferrari took us in and then let me sit in the car and stuff? And I love that because you're inspiring another generation. And I just thought, do you know what? That is absolutely amazing. And I've been in some dealerships before. I've been in Audi, I've been in Porsche, and we never, ever got that level of service. It's very similar to what you said. Go on, you tell the story. Who was it out of all the cars and every manufacturer we've bought from? Seat. Tell them.
Barnsley. What was it?
Cars 2.
Cars 2 Barnsley. We walked in Audi and bought 3, not 1, 2, 3 brand new cars. We pay cash, straight up, pass the card, charge it fully. We took the Audi A4, A3 Saloon, and 2 S3s. Right, so we went in and we spent 100 grand. Nothing, like
No special treatment.
Not even a thank you.
not
after.
even a thank you. We then went one day. We just went to Cars 2 Barnsley. Great set of people there. Went in. We bought a little Seat B for I think for 20.
About 23 grand or something.
22, 23 grand.
Yeah,
Brand
yeah.
new it was, 'cause I paid for it, I remember.
Yeah.
I had to pay for it.
Because when it's something like it,
That's
we'd
why it
lost
came
us,
to our house.
lost bank bank cards
It was
blocked or
something
something.
like that,
Yeah, for business. So you had to pay
so
for
I
it.
paid for this car, and obviously it took my name down on my seat. So we gets the car, we takes it up storage. A few days later, knock on door, parcel, and it's this massive hamper, all branded up with Seat, keyring, phone charger, some of the poshest food that I didn't eat anyway, but the thought what they went into it, and that were on a 20 grand deal or 23 grand deal, but then we could go to Audi, who we've spent
5 times
hundreds
that.
of thousands for. I mean, including yourself personally, we're talking hundreds.
$250,000.
Yeah.
Probably.
£250,000. So we're not like buying these cars, having them for 5 years, and going back and buying another. This was all in space of a matter of weeks and months.
Yeah.
And it were like we'd just gone in and asked for an air in a tyre, or we'd bought a service or whatever. There
Not
were
so
no-
much as a free keyring.
Yeah, not even that.
Yeah, and it's like my experience once with Porsche when I had that GT4 RS. I'm not going to mention which particular one it was, but it's so funny because I actually went down in the car as well. And you know, a GT4 RS is not so. You know, like, as soon as that pulls in,
it's an impressive looking car.
yeah, as soon as you pull that into the car park, like it's not getting seen. And I walked in, got out of the car, walked in, and what it is, those cars, they absolutely swallow engine oil.
Yes.
They burn through it like it's water.
Yeah, mine's just had to be topped up as well.
Yeah, so they really do burn through it. So I've gone down and I literally stood there at the counter and I was there for 20 minutes and I've seen the staff making eye contact with me, physical eye contact, and they were just stood there. They weren't with customers or anything, and not one of them come over to speak to me. Now, obviously, they'd not seen me at the time, I don't think, getting out of the car, but I think just purely based on looks, the fact that I was there in a t-shirt, I've got tattoos on my arms and all stuff like that.
He don't want no service, he's not having my time.
Yeah, didn't come over and speak to me. Yeah, the funny thing is, like I said, with Ferrari, which you would expect to be very hoity-toity, like very particular, you know, treat you like, you know, something on the end of your shoe, complete opposite.
Craziness.
Right, anyway, so I'll carry on. So, yeah, we got up to sort of like me and you meeting.
Yeah.
JFS, I needed some business cards. Tried all best and got stuck with this guy. No, he come highly recommended. So I got some cards off me. I got some cards off him. There was an issue with it. He rectified it, which for me, I knew, you know what, this guy sound like. I wasn't even bothered about the issue. Like, still not bothered to this day. But he was, and he rectified it. So we started All-Star Prizes. Now, from my perspective, it was different for you, obviously, and this will explain why, but we're running out of my garage. We're storing them at my garage.
Yeah.
We're doing live draws in shed. We had this little telly on wall.
Literally, it was, yeah. It was freezing cold.
Yeah.
It was damp. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we literally every Sunday, 'cause we did draws on a Sunday then.
Sunday, yeah.
There was none of this fancy equipment. It was a laptop. Did we have a camera at that point?
Yeah, I think we.
So I used to stand behind a laptop and do the laptop, and you'd sit down at a desk.
It was a proper camera because I tell you who it was that we bought it off, and actually we're still in contact with him now. It's that Les.
Oh yeah, I did his van of a month.
Yeah, he posts all the
Oh, you
photos
mean,
on
yes.
like Pontefract page
That's
of
it,
like
yeah.
the animals and stuff, don't they?
Yeah.
So we bought the first ever camera off him.
Off him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'd sit there. I'd be
Is it
behind the
Les
laptop.
Lidl or something? I can't
That's
remember.
it. Yeah, Lidl. I'd stand behind the laptop, and Matt'd be there, and he'd present it, and we'd have all the viewers. Then were family and friends, really, weren't they?
Tell them about the argument
Which one?
about presenting it because All Star almost not happened. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
Because
so I'm
we had
like,
a full blown
listen,
argument
No,
about who were presenting
not doing it. Not happening. I think the first time you got me on camera when we tried that stinky fish, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That first time round, I'd be there at the back of it, I'd be speaking, but I would not stand in front of a camera.
Yeah.
Wouldn't do it.
And we had a full blown argument because obviously at the time I've got ADHD and I've got severe social anxiety. Like this is why I don't really go out. Like it's very rare you'll see me going like town drinking stuff like that because I've got really bad social anxiety. So for me to do that was like a massive thing.
Massive.
So we had a full blown argument and he's like, well, if you're fucking not doing it, then we're not doing it at all. And he like dug his feet in. So I thought, well, I'm going to have to overcome it or this shit just ain't going to
It's
happen.
gonna end.
Yeah.
So he had to grow up, put his big girl pants on, and look where we are. But yeah, so we were buying prizes. We were going out. We were getting, and we both had other jobs at this point. We were getting like the CR500 we imported from Greece. We were spending a lot of money trying to do something to grab people's attention,
Something
to
different.
get everybody in, and to do stuff like that. And then we got this electric bike. Yeah.
And
Are we getting into this?
Yeah, we might as well. So
it's a big part. Yeah, it's a big part of the story.
a lot of people watching this though, they went because when they've seen me since I've recovered and I've come back on camera and I've been doing lives with and that,
They won't know.
they don't know about this. This will probably be perfect time for you to introduce a little clip.
Yeah, so have you still got that clip? Have you?
Mate, it's floating about.
We'll get hold of it
The
and
CCTV clip.
we'll overlay the clip now. So obviously, cutting back now, you'll have seen that clip and what's just happened. So do you want to explain it? What you remember, and then I'll
I'll tell
chime in.
truth and you lie. Right, so this electric bike as well as a motocross bike was sat in my garage. Now we'd rid this bike ourselves, haven't we? We'd been up and down fields. We had the CR500.
We raced them, didn't we?
We raced them. And all the time, this bike had never, ever been charged past 80%.
Yeah.
Because when we got it unboxed and that, we were too eager. So we were out on it, and it were rapid. So this one day, Sunday, 4th of July, Independence Day for some, nearly retirement day for others. I'd just come back from town shopping for our Sav's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
You'd already got up to mine, you'd opened gates, you were in yard. Garage doors open, this bike's fully charged 100%. So you've gone, right, we'll take the bike out, I'll do a little video, we'll try and shift some last minute tickets, 'cause I think we're just at around halfway point. Which is, we never really got past that with anything back then.
No.
So I'm like, yeah, no worries. I'm in shorts and t-shirt. I've got my trainers on with my laces not tied. Proper relaxed Sunday that I want riding motorbikes. So I gets this electric bike, sits on it at top at yard. Matt's at other end, wheelies it from one side to other. Matt goes, here, put an helmet on, which absolutely probably saved my life.
Mm.
So he gives me this helmet, puts it on, I turns the bike the opposite direction. It had a button on it, can you remember the button?
Yeah, the speed
But we didn't
bumps.
know which one it was.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
had a button, one made it from fast to stupid fast, but it didn't label it. You didn't know what were what. So I've got on it, wheeled it from there to there on button, pressed in on A, whatever. As I've got my helmet on, I'm messing about, I've pressed it onto,
Stupid mode.
which now transpires it were probably the faster way.
Yeah.
So I gets on the bike again and I think, right, straight away, wheel it up drive, get to, because I've got a private lane and as you know, so we can ride up and down. So I sets off a little wheelie up there with intention, getting to the top, Matt's going to film me flying past him. Anyway, my little wheelie goes a little bit too far back, so I'm like, shit, I'm not made this, put my feet down. As I've put my feet down, I've just fell backwards, felt this thing in my leg, and I knew straight away I brought my leg. I'm laid on floor. Matt comes walking up. Are you all right? I'm like, and he's like, oh fucking hell. So he then walks up to the bike. Yeah, go on. You can interrupt until I'm lying here.
No, I did. I made sure you were all right. Still,
he did come up to make sure I was breathing, and then he's like, right, he's breathing. But what about the bike? Fuck the bike. So he walks up to the bike, been electric and geared, laid on its side. He then picks it up with throttle. As that bike gets to like standing up point, it must have had like a level sensor. Matt's got it in one hand. The bike sets off, drags the bike, and then Matt. So
Superman.
There's 360 degrees in there around you. You've got 360 degrees no matter which way you're facing. That 1 degree that pointed at me
is where that bike went.
And the bike went. So I'm laid on my side. I knew my leg had exploded, but I didn't look at it. So I thought if I look at it, I'll pass out. I knew what had happened. I never looked at it once. I'm laid on my side, on my right hand side at this point, which means your leg were on right hand side. Next thing, my missus at time, she jumps out of the way, and then I just see this oaf and this bike come
careering towards
coming
you.
down drive and just go straight over me. So I end up then rolling over with my leg that's like snapped like that. So I'm rolling over, my leg's doing things it shouldn't. I had knees where there shouldn't be knees, and yeah, so I ends up with Matt, this motorbike falling on directly on
to your already broken
leg.
Yeah.
So that then resulted in, I mean, what are we up to date? 7 operations. Nearly NHS wanted to cut my leg off. Yeah, so I spent a lot of time in hospital. But then again, Matt, because he's a nice man, he brought me a little fire stick, and well, at least he can watch telly. I've just ruined his life, but he can watch telly.
No, do you still remember it? The night so that he got took off in an ambulance, and was it the same day or the next day? I think
the
it was.
Next day.
And I brought him a care pack.
Yeah.
Grapes.
I'm sorry.
I did,
Grapes and a fire stick.
Because he were massively addicted to Red Bulls at the time, like really addicted to Red Bulls, and I bought him a big crate of them, some sweets and some chocolate and stuff, and took it in and that, and he was just like laid on bed feeling sorry for himself, like strapped up and that.
I spent 2 weeks for having my leg cut off, and like.
So did they give you that option then?
They told me it can never be fixed, can't be fixed, and you'll never walk again. That's what it was. So the option was through knee, leg off, and I'm like, it's a fucking broken bone. What do you mean you're taking my leg off like it's still there? There's no up with it, man. It's just put me back together. So I had to like have a bit of a fight. I went from Wakefield to Leeds, Leeds to Sheffield, Sheffield back to Wakefield. And every single hospital and surgeon refused and said, we're not working on it, can't be saved. So I managed to get one doctor who said basically, look, I'll put you back together, but...
You don't think it's going to work?
No, he told me straight, you'll never walk again. And to be fair, had I not gone private, I wouldn't have walked again. So I spent about 5-6 months laid in bed with a leg that won't bend, strapped up, metal cage. I'm on... The maddest amount of painkillers you could ever get. Depressed out of my mind. It's summer.
I was going to say that because I remember coming up to... Because obviously All Star was still going on at the time, and I remember coming up to the yard to come and see you and speak to you something, and you wouldn't even see me.
Yeah.
You said no. You told me to...
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't even speak to me. It were through Dave or something.
Yeah.
You went, tell him to fuck off.
Yeah. Didn't want to speak to no one. Didn't want to see no one. I was like, feeling sorry for myself. We're on another planet, and then I was sat there, and I'm taking all these painkillers. It was COVID, well, prevalent at that time, so my physiotherapist would have a phone, like, I'm not a surgeon or a doctor, but yeah, so that didn't work. So I spent like 6 months, and normally you break your bones or your injuries, and in 6 months you get better. I want nothing different.
Were you worse, if anything?
Stiffer, less movement.
Yeah.
So it was like, I went, and it was around Christmas time. I went to Nuffield in Leeds, and the thought I had in my head at the time was, I want a knee replacing. So I thought I couldn't bend my knee, so I'll get a new knee, or I want my leg cutting off. And I'd got to the point where I thought, do you know what? If I'd have had it cut off 6 months ago, in that 6 months I've laid in bed, I could have been learning to walk again. So I'd sort of got to that point in my mind where it were like, you know what, fuck it, just cut my leg off. Give me my life back or some of it back. So I went, seen this surgeon, very, very nice man. And he was like, you're not having neither. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm not having neither. Like, it's private. You get what you want. You pay for it. You do. And he literally just grabbed my leg, grabbed my knee, bent me about a bit, and he was like, yeah, I think I can get you to about 90-95%. It's a long, long road, but I think I can. I paid for this operation. It was 3,000 plus that, right? And I went in, had the op on 2 crutches, couldn't put my foot on the floor, wheelchair or scooter, didn't I?
Yeah.
And I went into hospital, exactly like that. 24 hours later, I walked out with 1 crutch. And I went home, and you know what first thing I did?
What?
I pulled my wheelie bin in. Now, you've seen my lane, haven't you? So you can imagine where my wheelie bin's got to go.
Yeah.
So I pulled my wheelie bin in, and that was like the biggest achievement that I could have one hand on a crutch and pull my wheelie bin in, and then that's when I sort of like felt, you know, I'm getting my life back.
Yeah.
So I'm starting. I'm a bit more hopeful. I've got the worst physio. I'm in absolute agony. I'm still addicted to painkillers, morphine, codeine, all that. I'm smoking more weed than Bob Marley could have ever thought about, and put all them together and depression, and it fucks with your head.
Yeah.
It does fuck with your head. So that then resulted in my missus left me. So she walked out, literally got up one day, took kids, no explanation. I'm still half crippled. You know, I couldn't walk properly and all like that. So she took kids. I think she was gone about 2-3 days. Didn't know where my kids were and all like that. So again, my head was fucked.
Well,
like, you'll back me up with this, won't you? My head was fucked.
Yeah, because I remember one thing that I'll say, and we touched a base on this last time on the first podcast. As a friend, sometimes I'll tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
Yeah.
And because obviously I'd gone through all this with Jane before.
Yeah.
Very similar. He'd been with Chelsea a little bit longer. I was with Jane for 10 years. So I knew everything, every emotion he was going to be going through, the suicide and stuff and that. Like, and I'm like, trying to talk to him and trying to like prep him up and get him ready and stuff. And I think, well, it's up to you if you want to obviously explain what extent it went to. But I remember getting a phone call from, I think, was it your mum or sister or somebody?
Nikki, I bet.
Yeah, somebody saying that you was on top of a bridge, threatening to jump.
Yep.
And I tried to get through to you, and I remember you saying to me,
on crutches.
Yeah, I think you sent me a text saying, Matt, I love you, but don't come anywhere near here. Basically, if anybody comes, I'll do it.
Yeah, we're in a bad place. I'd from my kids being alive, everything I've ever done's for my kids. I've never been one to like go out with my mates or a lad's holiday or go out Friday, come back Monday. I've been there. I probably say the worst thing I did for my kids growing up is work too hard.
Yeah,
I'd say that's the worst thing I've ever done.
Guilty of that.
So for them, at that time, love of my life, to walk out, my 3 kids to just walk out, no one's telling me where they are, it was like, and I think the only way I can describe it was like...
It's like your whole world ended,
my whole family had died.
Yeah.
Well, nothing I could do about it. I think I spent 3 days, no sleep. Red Bull played a fucking strong part of that, so I'm probably having 2 gallons of Red Bull, 20 gram of weed, all these painkillers. My head was fucked, and it ended up with me stood on a bridge on crutches. I wouldn't say wanting to jump off. If I'd have wanted to jump off, I'd have jumped.
Yeah,
I'd been fucked because I couldn't swim, which was obviously the point of it. But obviously, I didn't want that.
Like a cry for help,
massive cry for help. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know, like, my life going forward. I didn't have a clue. So from then, that happening, sort of got my head around it. Then I ended up with kids. So, like I say, I've been with my kids every day of their life, but that don't mean I've done everything for them in terms of I'd not done school runs. I didn't know how to wash a work. I couldn't cook. I'll say this now and I still say it with the same heart, fuck cleaning. I absolutely despise it. So I was shitting myself. I was absolutely shitting myself, and first thing I said was, I'm not being a weekend dad. I'm not seeing my kids on a Saturday and that's it. Like, I want to be there
day in, day out.
Yeah, every step of the way, and it resulted in obviously 50-50 custody and stuff like that. But I did it, and everyone around me, even family, they thought I was going to go off rails. I think it's that go back on drugs,
Yeah.
that mentality.
Yeah.
End up back in prison, start kicking off and doing daft stuff, and I think even I thought that that's what was going to happen. But I had kids to think about, so I stopped smoking weed. Remember that, didn't I?
Yeah. And I remember having this conversation with you like it was yesterday, and I remember saying to you, because it was like history repeating itself, because I'd
You've
been
done it. You've done it.
I'd done that. I still remember being in that flat when I first moved in, and I felt like like most women, because most women will have never gone through this, and that's not taking anything away from obviously as female listeners, but what I mean by this is the majority of time when a relationship breaks down and you've got kids, the kids stay with the mum.
Kids stay with a mum every
So
time.
nothing in that sense changes, but for a dad, for a man, it goes from having full time being your kids in your life to then, like you said, you almost feel like a weekend warrior. I mean, I had 50% split custody of my kids, and still to this day, 5 years later, I've never missed one single time with them. And it's such a massive change, because like you said, you almost make that, the woman in your life and the kids your world. So everything, every decision you make, every action you take
is for them.
And it rotates. And then when that gets taken away, it's like your life comes crashing down.
Own.
Yeah, you don't know where to turn, what to do, or anything. And it's terrible.
I got a lot of help, and funnily enough, from Chelsea's mum.
Mm-hmm.
So
which is unusual.
Yeah, but we always got on. We still do now. So she used to, she still does. She helped me out by kids' uniforms.
Yeah.
So she makes sure that my kids have every one of them, a brand new, freshly washed, ironed uniform every single day. And I go and pick them up on the night before and switch them round. And she still does that now. So she took a massive weight off me. Then it was like, I thought, well, I can't fucking just keep giving them McDonald's and takeaways and stuff like that. So I started
to learn how to cook.
Yeah,
listen, I've seen some of your Snapchats. You can
You
do you know what?
Yeah.
I'll give it to you, mate. Some of the stuff I've seen you knock up that you've put on Snapchat looks decent.
Yeah,
Begs the question why we've never been invited for fucking dinner. But
I'm not the friendliest person.
Because I speak about me being antisocial, but he is the most antisocial motherfucker you'll ever meet in your entire life. Like the amount of stuff we've invited him out to and stuff like that, and he just does not come ever. I'd be surprised at this stage, right? Obviously, we've just booked the Christmas party.
I'll be
literally
this morning.
this morning.
No, and like so I had to adapt, and all while doing this, I was having operation after operation after. So sometimes I'd get back to where I could walk without crutches, and then a week later I'd have a cage on and I'd be on 2 crutches, and my son Jack, he's like he had to grow up quick to help me, so he helped me with his brother and sister a lot. When he'd see me struggling, he'd step in, and so him, bless him, he took a massive weight off me. But then that leads us up sort of like now, so I just continue doing what I'm doing with kids. I like to get away. People like say, "Oh, you're so good taking kids and all that." Listen, it's not for them; it's for me. It's not just for them.
A nice break.
No school runs, no uniforms. No, we can go on holiday. We can wear the same clothes for a week. It don't matter. Just jump in pool. Who needs a bath? So that's sort of like brought us up to where we are today. Might just tell me why, mate.
Sorry, mate.
So that's obviously a part 1, part 2 with myself and Sid. So now obviously we'll get into Matt's story, and to give us an opportunity to grill him as well.
Well, we've already started by, because obviously we ended part 1 by saying, because I think one of you said, "Oh, we all had pretty similar childhoods," and I went,
like, "No, that one it was posh."
Oh
No.
yeah, posh.
So grew up in Bramley.
2 butlers, a maid,
No.
chauffeur.
I've still never met anybody from Bramley that's posh.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not posh, am I? Let's face it. But grew up in Bramley. We're really lucky that Mum and Dad were always around. They were together. Lived in a decent house. Mum were a nurse, and sort of pretty much through most of my childhood, Mum were either Mum or Dad, never both. because Mum used to work like night shifts. She bounced from working for NHS in community to working on wards to working in being like a senior nurse in a care home, and obviously that were all different like night shifts and stuff like that. So, and then when she wasn't there, my dad was. I think my dad's probably where I got a lot of my entrepreneurial spirit from. He probably won't mind me saying he's probably the reason I've failed in a few businesses as well. Because we just,
why is that?
Yeah.
We just
what did Daddy do wrong?
He just taught me just throw caution to the wind all the time, like always.
So
Never.
Would you say you were like, you probably made some choices where you've been overcautious and you should have just used
No, probably the other way, mate. Probably, and my wife will say this as well. Like I've had businesses where I've really not taken any time whatsoever, and I've just thought again. And I'll get on to sort of me being ADHD a little bit later on, but obviously back then not realising I were ADHD, just like, oh yeah, fuck it, it sounds like a really good idea, we'll do this, and then
Just running at it 110 mile an hour.
literally just diving
Obviously,
in.
I'm that thing.
Yeah, it must be.
Sean, we're not related.
Listen, I'm
every
proper, like,
possibility.
you actually, like, the similarities is,
Frightening.
yeah.
What's your dad called again?
Andy.
Andy. I'm trying to think if my mum's ever been with an Andy before.
I'll ask her later.
Well, you had quite a few uncles, didn't you? So there's every possibility.
Listen, shout out to episode 1 as well, because on YouTube, Donna, who is my mum's best mate, she actually commented on the first episode saying, every time we went to town, we always pulled because of your mum.
Go on.
I'm saying absolutely nothing about that.
Yeah, please don't. Right, swiftly moving on. Go on.
Yeah, so...
Look at you rushing him. Go on, hurry up. Take your time, Matt. We're here
So,
for you.
yeah,
Really,
grew up in Bramley.
Tell us how bad these silver spoons tasted in your mouth. We're here
Listen,
for
there
you.
were no silver spoons in my house. But,
Gold.
I will say, definitely didn't have a bad childhood. Compared to a lot of people. I know a lot of people I'm friends with. We went on holiday, multiple times a year because mum and dad both had good jobs. We always had decent clothes. We always had a roof over us. Like I probably got to about 15, 16, not really seeing anybody struggle with money.
Yeah. We weren't used to
See,
it.
that's wild to me. Like, that is so far different to me.
Again, same.
But
Same.
in a way, I actually don't think living in that sort of cocooned world as like a teenager did me any favours, because I sort of got into my teenage years. I mean, and I say I were a really intelligent kid at school. Teachers I were like Marmite at high school. They either loved me or they fucking detested me.
Yeah, I can see that.
Bit like working here.
I remember
Which one likes, which one dislikes.
I remember going to one parents' evening, and I'll never forget her. She were a brilliant teacher, and she were always one of those who I couldn't quite tell whether she liked me or not. I think she was one of those that wanted to like me but wanted to hate me as
Did she kick
well.
you when you were like walking the other way? 'Cause if
I
not,
think
then
she
probably
wanted
liked
to.
you.
And I remember going to parents' evening with my mum, and it were Miss Webster, my geography teacher, and I were interested in geography and I were quite good at it. And I remember sitting down and she just sort of looked really flustered, and she's like, I really don't know what to say about Matthew. And my mum's looking confused. She's like, what do you mean? She went, he doesn't make sense. And like, I'm looking and my mum's looking, it's like, what the fuck is she on about?
Like, you don't make sense. What you on about?
And she says, I've never met a child who can piss ass about to the levels that he does. All he's interested in doing is making people laugh. I've seen him sit there for a full hour lesson, and to my mind has done absolutely nothing other than fuck about, make people laugh, disrupt the class, but somehow he takes everything in.
Yeah.
And it's and I genuinely still like, and that were more subjects. Like there were very few subjects that I had to try really hard in, because that sort of academic side just came really naturally. Like I didn't have to try. Like I had mates going for, like when we were doing his GCSEs, who'd sit and stress and cry and get themselves upset about revising and making sure they got all top grades, and it was like,
You were definitely posh, because none of my mates ever did that. None of them.
And I remember picking my GCSE results up, and it were like A star, A star, A, B, A star, and it were like didn't revise once. Like genuinely, God's honest truth. Never. Once I left that school gate, that were me. I were out on my bike. I were out causing mischief. So yeah, growing up, I were a bit of an anomaly. Like my mum were always. I was just left. Honestly, I was just left to my own devices. I genuinely don't think my mum and dad had any clue what kind of stuff I got up to. As far as they were concerned, I went to school every day. A bit like you, I got brought up in Bramley, so all my mates were either going to West Leeds or I think it was Intake then. And again, my mum, in her infinite wisdom, thought it'd be a good idea to send me to a school, I think it were about 3.5 miles away, that we're going to have to walk every day. So I had to walk from Bramley to Farnley every day. I went to, I don't know what it's called now, but then it was Farnley Park High School. But yeah, I thrived at school. I made some really good mates. I were one of those kids. I were a popular kid, but I were popular with everybody. Like I want one of those cliquey kind of, knobhead lads who only knocked about with everybody. I were mates with everybody.
I don't know, you just said I want one of them knobheads, and I thought I was fucking lying again.
So yeah, like growing up, we're pretty good. Got up to some mischief. I mean, we did some stupid stuff at I've told my kids, and I'm like, please don't ever do this. But
it were a different generation back then. Wasn't it? Like,
there were no.
It was completely some of the stuff that we got up to.
Do you ever feel an hypocrite, like when you said to your kids, "Don't do that"? But
massively.
Done it like I get
Massively.
that a lot.
Yeah.
Like I tell, you shouldn't ever do that, and then I think, well, I used to do that.
Oh, I mean,
like,
some crazy stuff we used to do. I mean, on estate where I grew up, there were there were a road that went up through Midlet Estate, and there were 2 factories like slap bang at Midlet Estate. And one of them had like a corrugated pitched roof. And there were always, for about 15 years, there were a Luton van parked right at the end of the corrugated. So like literally where the roof ended,
that van started.
The van started, and then obviously the van sloped off as well. Yeah. And one of the favourite things to do was we used to climb on top of electricity substation, scale this roof, and literally use this factory as like a giant slide. So we'd slide, and I'm talking maybe 80, 90 foot.
Yeah.
And we'd climb to the top of this factory roof, slide down, and the thrill was, were you going to fall off the end of the factory, or were you going to hit the top of the van and carry on sliding? Yeah, stuff like that. There were a few.
Not very safe, Matthew.
No, there were a few idiots on estate who used to sell fireworks to kids, and like we used to have rocket races. Like we used to save up bits of money, and we'd go to this idiot's house who'd sell fireworks to kids. And it were on
they must have had one in every area. We had some lesbians that we used to go buy fireworks. They were like, you'd buy a single firework for like 30 pence, and we'd take bangers out, cut the banger out, attach the wick to it, and make like a little, put it on an aerosol,
make a little bomb.
No, and then throw it at the windows. I would have bought it off.
Like there were a big hill that ran down Midlet Estate, and we used to, like on a Friday night when when fireworks were on sale, we'd have like rocket races. So we'd buy same rockets and we'd start them at same position at hill, and would race them downhill, and whoever won didn't have to buy the fireworks next time. Just stupid stuff like that.
But I think we all did that, didn't we? I mean, I don't think, not so much when I were in Errol's, but when I moved to Gipton, that's when we started getting to like mischief like that.
Yeah. You'll have been more grown up as well, though, and I think mischief's more like, as you're going into your teens, that's when you tend to be more mischievous. Was it about that time?
Probably before. I think I were about 10, 11, something along those lines. But I'll tell you a funny story, just to quickly cut into this. I'll tell you a funny story about moving to Gipton. This is how much my mum loves me. So,
I love your mum's story.
Yeah, honestly,
because it all involves him coming out worse.
Well, this one's a corker, mate. Yeah, listen, right. I still to this day, my mum had her favourites, and I definitely want one of them. But yeah, so I went to France with the high school. We got an opportunity to go to France, and that was a weird situation as well. I remember the teacher showed us all how to play suck and blow, but we'll talk about that another time.
Sounds
very dubious.
Yeah,
but I come home from France, and I went to the house that I did live in, that I assumed I still lived in.
She moved and not told you.
Listen to this, right? So I've gone. The house is empty. I looked through windows. There were nothing. Completely empty.
Did
nothing
you think like
in
you
it.
were living a real life episode of Home Alone?
Mate, I wanted to cry. I'm like stood at door shitting myself because this is before like times
Phones,
all
that.
all that stuff, right? So I'm like literally stood in the front garden, upset, crying, and there was this woman that lived in the same street called Ado. Her name was. So she had a daughter called Keely, and she'd seen me come and she'd come flying over and said she's moved. I went, what do you mean she's moved? Yeah, she's moved. I've got to give you this bit of paper which had new address on, and it were Gibson Fire Station, and she'd fucking moved. Yeah, down to Gibson Fire Station, not told me. Yeah, took all my stuff. This house is empty. I'm thinking like I've been fucking left here. like she'd moved far away and thought, right, listen, he's social
Fucking
care's
he's
problem
gone,
now.
he's
Yeah,
gone,
yeah.
forget him.
Somebody rings social services.
Mattu.
Yeah, and give me this address, and I walked down there from Kitchener's down to Gipton Approach, and there she was, happy as Larry in this new house. She's like, here's your bedroom.
I think my mum disliked me at times, and probably still does to this day, actually, because I've give over fucking over past 20 years, I've given her plenty of reason to dislike me. But yeah, she's never moved house without telling me.
Yeah, no.
And this is something I forgot to mention earlier. So on episode 1, I mentioned a lot about after my brother died, me and my mum, not me and my mum, me. I was an horrible little shit, and I took everything out of my mum to where I ended up with like a restraining order. And basically what I'm just saying is on that one is obviously we're mates now. We've been mates for a very long time. And I think it goes back to that you tend to take things out on one you love most,
closest to you.
People closest to you. So that's what it was like with me and my mum. Other than that, and I mean, it's still now, she's a pain in chuffing ass. Oh, my car's broken. I've seen this one down here that I like. Look at it. What you're into, it? Come on. And yeah, apart from that, we get on absolutely brilliant now. Absolutely brilliant.
That's good. But yeah, so what? I can't remember where I was.
Causing mischief.
Yeah, causing mischief. So that was obviously, early teens, got up to all sorts of stuff that lads usually do. But again, we're given a lot of freedoms. My mum and dad never really, again, it was before phones. So like, we wouldn't think twice about getting up on a Saturday morning after we'd done us paper rounds, me and a few lads that I were really close with that we grew up in Bramley. So Jay, Sean, Billy. Oh, we used to go on like 50, 60 mile bike rides. Like, we could be gone for 15, 16 hours. Like, we'd ride from like Bramley all the way up to like Yorkshire Dales and back again.
That used to be the calling sign, like before phones. Like the younger generation watching this might not know, but that's how you knew where everybody were at someone's house, because you'd go around and looking in gardens.
And alt bikes were outside.
And whoever's garden had alt bikes in, that's where.
And everybody's mum, had all your mates' mums landline numbers. And if she didn't know where you was, she'd ring round all your mates with landline. Is he there? Is he there?
Not when I had a state. You used to get a shout out at the door. If someone at end of the street heard it, but you were, your mum's just been shouted, it'd be like, not shout, you like pass the message on sort of things.
But yeah, so, and I know like me and Matt have touched on it before about our sort of shared love for music and music production and DJing. So that was one of the sort of earliest memories I've got as like a young teenager. So yeah, sort of I'd say probably by about 16, 17, even though I was fairly young, I'd managed to get gigs at some fairly decent places. So people from that side of Leeds will know, I don't think it's open anymore. There were a nightclub called BN Venue, and it were where everybody in West Leeds went out. There were a load of bars around centre of Pudsey, and then you all ended up in what they called the Venue. And that's where I first started DJing, and that's where I was first introduced to drugs. Again, I think compared to you two, I'd probably lived a fairly sheltered life as a kid. Knew about drugs. Obviously, we'd had all them, bullshit talks where people come into school and tell you about them, but never any sort of real world experience of drugs. And obviously at this time I'm like 16, 17, like the club knew how old I was, but obviously they let me have a drink and stuff like that because I looked a lot older. I'll say
carried well.
Yeah, I thought I'd just point up there before anybody else got that one in there. So yeah, started using cocaine recreationally at probably about 16, 17. Obviously, my mum and dad had no idea. It was just a weekend thing then. Not long after that, I started spending. I had an uncle who is still one of the world leaders in AI. He was like one of the first people ever in the world to have a degree in AI. He'd moved out to Japan. So I think he first went out there at 13, one summer holiday, spent the entire summer holiday out there, and absolutely fell in love with it and said, you know, one day I'm going to live here. Because I loved it. I loved everything about it. The people, the culture, the food, the music, the language, everything. So probably I'd say from about 16 to 18, I spent most of my time over there. Pretty much living there. Doing little bits of work for my uncle. I was quite, I say fortunate in the sense, when I was about 13, 14, I was beaten within an inch of my life, all over a Burberry cap.
What, over here?
Yeah. So again, I suppose that's one of the fall downs of my mum and dad actually having a bit of money. Because you know, when you were wearing nice clothes, people wanted to take them off you.
Yeah.
I won't mention his name because I don't think he's worth mentioning. But yeah, this particular lad who were well known in area, bit of a knobhead, thought he were a bit of a, you know, a big I am. And yeah, I had this Burberry cap, and I remember being sat with a few friends on a doorstep of one of my mates' house, and he's like, I want that cap. And I'm like, me being me, like mouthy little fucker, like, fuck off. And he's like, people don't speak to me like that. He says, I'm telling you, fuck off. Like, you're not having me hat. So anyway, I went away. And yeah, he were waiting for me around the corner and like literally beat me within an inch of my life. So
did he get the hat?
Yeah, he did. He got the hat as well, the bastard in the end. Fucking gutted about that. I liked that hat. But yeah,
I think that's sometimes though part of like living on a council estate. It comes hand in hand. I mean, when
Debo, it's like Debo.
Listen, mate. When this is no word of a lie, and I'm still friends with him today. The first week I moved to Gipton, yeah, right. Bearing in mind, I were from Aerials, in Kitcheners and stuff. Yeah, there were fights and stuff like that. Bloody hell, I still remember to this day. Should do it. I had a really good friend, Ryan Redding, and we used to stay at each other's houses and stuff. And then I remember his brother Sean made us fight each other. And it was just for shits and giggles, mate. Like, made us actually scrap a big group of them, yeah, from the Kimberleys, which was like a notorious part of like in the Kitcheners. They all stood round in a circle, and even though we were best friends, made us fight each other, mate. Right, so that, you know, I was used to that, but there were never anything like robberies, any of that type of stuff, like, because you still looked after your own. Yeah, you had a scrap every now and again, but that was just part and parcel.
Your mates stay after.
Yeah. But literally, the first week I moved to Gipton, I was walking up Gipton Approach, and I had this thin gold chain, like, you know what you get from Argos or something, but really thin gold chain, but it were gold. And I was walking up Gipton Approach, and I got robbed.
No.
Yeah, I swear to God, 4 lads come over to me and like they were pushing me about and that lot, threatening me and stuff. And then they seen gold. I had like a little t-shirt with it, and you know, like when you're young and stupid, I had it over the top of the t-shirt and stuff. Yeah. Like thinking I was fucking bad. And they took it off me. And ran off into Gipton. And I still know who it was to this day. And I'm actually friends with him. Are you
like friends with him, or sort of like keep your friends close and your enemies closer friends with them?
No, like...
Do you want me to go and let the tyres down?
I don't even know if that person still remembers it to this day, to be honest. But yeah, Gipton Approach it was. I know exactly who it was. Friendly with them to this day. I've never brought it up since, because like they might not even remember, do you know what I mean? Or maybe they do, I don't know. But
like, yo, can you remember robbing me? Want my chain back now?
Well, I know when going back to that incident, I remember... spending quite a few days in hospital, coming out knowing nothing about it. Again, I think about 13, 14. And it wasn't till about 18 months later, one summer holidays, I think I was sat in my room waiting to go out, waiting for my pals to get ready. And my mum would come in and she went, I've got something to tell you. I'm like, right, okay. She went, you've got some money. I'm like, what do you mean I've got some money? So she then went on to explain that she'd applied for, I don't know if they still do it now, criminal injuries compensation. Yes. And obviously my mum had done all this legwork secretly behind the scenes. Like I didn't know nothing about it. She'd fought to get it, fought really hard to get it. They didn't want to give me anything. But I mean, it had no bullshit. It did fuck me up as a kid. Like, well, for a while I was quite scared to go back out again.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'd got this money, and I think it ended up being something like a fair few thousand. And my mum said, "Look, I think I was nearly 16 at this point. This was just before I started going to Japan like a lot." And she said, "Look, all I want out of that money," she says, "will you buy me a new washing machine?" And then she says, "If you buy me a new washing machine, whatever you want to do with the rest, you do with the rest."
Yeah.
So that's the money I used to fund myself going backwards and forwards to Japan for the best part of 2 years. Fast forward to about 18, so I loved my time over there. Like, some incredible memories. Like, I've been back countless times as an adult. Obviously,
you're going again, aren't you? You've got booked for next
yeah.
year.
So I'm taking my youngest. My youngest daughter, who is 11 now, she obviously is very inquisitive. She's with autism as well, so she's very inquisitive. She wants to know everything about everything and really into culture. So she's finally going for the first time. But yeah, I've been back countless times. I've taken friends.
I didn't fancy it, me, Matt, did you?
No, do you know that, funnily enough though, right, I still remember, I don't know how, but we must have known each other through some sort of context, because before we actually got speaking, and I'm sure it was before you brought the batteries, I saw a social media post from you, and it was your mate that you'd taken away to Japan, and I seen like all the photos and the videos and stuff.
Yeah, so that's a little
Maybe
bit.
his
That's,
mate was your mate.
no, do you know what it is? What you will have probably seen is just before COVID kicked off, I wanted to start a YouTube channel, like a travel YouTube channel, because I'm mad about travel. And I wanted to do like a proper budget travel channel, so to see how cheap you could go.
Where you can go,
Yeah.
for how far, how much.
Yeah, so like prime example, I mean, COVID absolutely ruined it, and it's just something I never picked back up again. But like one of the videos I did, and they're still on YouTube now. The lad who was my best man at my wedding, Dean, lives just outside London, and got invited to go out for his birthday one year. And I didn't have a lot of money back then, and I said, obviously it's going to cost me like £100 in juice to get down to London. Then I've got to buy my booze, my food and stuff while I'm down there. And it gave me an idea for a video. I'm not going on your birthday, but how cheaply can I meet you abroad, have a night out, and come back within 24 hours? Can we do it cheaper than it would be for me to get down to London? So that's probably what you saw. But yeah, so this obviously spent a lot of time over there. Came back over here at probably about 18. Obviously, I'd had a few sort of jobs, never really stuck at anything. Very similar to you, to be honest, mate. Obviously, because not knowing then, but knowing now that because I were ADHD, just couldn't like. I'd do something to the best of my ability. I'd get promoted really quick. But just get really fucking bored and just fall out of love with stuff really quickly. And that's when I reconnected with Robin, who I am now married to. I've been married for
Think fast.
coming up
Think
to
fast.
9 years next year.
No. How many months and days?
Oh,
Not
give
coming
over.
up to 9 years.
So
We have been happily married for 9 years, 4 months and 3 days.
Poor man.
So yeah, me and Robin
Poor
have known
Robin.
each other since we were about 13, 14. We used to knock
Do you
about
never
together.
dress up and you pretend you're Batman and she's Robin? Or?
She hates that as well. She hates. So yeah, me and Robin had actually had a little. How can I put this politely?
Fling.
Yeah, when we were about 14, 15, and I'd always had a soft spot for her ever since. Obviously, when I come back, I think I just missed. I got invited to her 18th birthday party, and back then it was when you used to get an invite through post. You know, when people used to have your address and stuff. And I'd come back, and I'd missed this invite, and she wasn't right happy about it. So yeah, we got.
That's when you know she cares. that's when you knew, wasn't it?
Yeah.
She wasn't happy. I wasn't at her birthday.
So
Love.
she just got out of a relationship. Neither of us were looking for anything particularly, serious. And, by this point, we're sort of 18, 19. We're just, look, we're adults. We can enjoy time together, shall we say?
Netflix and chill.
That did not happen.
It won't be Netflix, would it be?
How many kids?
What's that video store?
Blockbuster and chill.
Yeah.
As if we're old enough to actually know what Blockbuster is as well. Jesus. So yeah, sort of about 18, sort of life started moving really fucking quick then. Robin already had a son, who now, again, I say this all the time, he's not biologically mine, but he is.
Yeah.
I've been the one who's been there for him since he was 18-month-old. I've brought him up, clothed him, fed him, put a roof over his back, taught him right from wrong. He's actually manning the cameras over there. So obviously that moved pretty quick. Obviously Robin already had a child, so we're like, let's not rush into things. You know, like at the time I had a good job when I'd come back. We're earning decent money, I had a nice lifestyle. So I thought, let's not spoil it. No. 3 months later, I remember being sat at my desk at the office job I had then.
Got something to tell you.
Robin, I got a text from Robin. I'd literally just gone to canteen to make myself a cup of tea, sat down, turned my computer on. She went, we're going to have to find somewhere to live. And at the time, Robin and her mum were having, like, they're very much alike, so they fought a lot. Like, they were so alike. And they were always.
Did you just think you were getting kicked out and not that you?
Well, no. When she said, I thought we're going to have to find another place to live. I actually thought she'd battered her mother, because if you know Robin, like that's entirely within the realms of possibility because she has got a very, very fiery temper.
She definitely wears the trousers in your
relationship. I'm not even going to deny that. Yeah.
And I like her better.
So I said, why, what's gone on? And I just got this picture through, and it was a scam picture. And she was pregnant.
God.
So, yeah, we'd been together 3 months. Yeah, we'd known each other a long time, but didn't really know each other.
You see how mad's that with time going on? Because obviously when you were 18 back then, what we're talking 20, 30 years ago, if that were to happen now, most people are just, if a bird sent you a picture of a scan, you'd be like, wow. Congratulations on becoming a single mum and all that.
That just happens in your life, Sid.
So yeah, obviously I had to grow up pretty fucking quickly. Then we moved out together. Obviously, when you've got 2 kids to pay for, and obviously you've got a job, you've now got a house, obviously I already had a car, obviously, which were way more expensive than I needed because I'd had it on finance.
Yeah.
Well before I met Robin. So obviously I've still on sort of single man finances, but trying to run a family.
Budget, family man's expenses.
Yeah. So this is 2010. At the time, my dad was working as a credit controller for a food service company. And I remember sitting down with my dad one day and he looked fed up. And I said, Dad, what's on? I said, like, you look like something's bothering you. He says, I think I want to open a fish and chip shop. I went, right. Now, fish and chips and catering had been in my family for a long time. Like, my great-great-great-grandma had them in Bradford in, like, early 20s. Like, my dad's dad always had burger vans that he used to take to festivals and stuff like that, and Little Leeds United. So catering had always been in the blood, and I think that was my first sort of foray into business. So my dad had said, what possesses you to think you want to do a fish and chip shop? And he's like, I'm dealing with books for all these, I'm dealing with credit control for all these chippies, and none of them can get it fucking right. And it's like, surely it can't be that hard. So I'd said to my dad, well, let's just do it then. I'm impulsive anyway. I'd bounce from job to job to job. So I said, let's do it. So
I can't say because I've got a chippy.
You have, yeah.
Have you actually still got that then?
Yes, I don't have no to do it. I think that's more of I've officially but unofficially just bought it and give it away.
Right, okay.
Sister, yeah. So yeah, I don't get paid from it. So I don't even get free food.
You don't even get
I do, but when I go down, I don't like to just take free food because it's a new business. So
yeah.
I still pay my way, and yeah, I own it, and I pay for my food, and yeah.
So how come you haven't, because you've had that while now, so how come you haven't taken anything in terms of salary, is it?
I never said I wanted out from it. I says, you said any business, you need a year. You
at
least need a year, don't you? And whether that's the money you make, you reinvest, you do what you've got, blah, blah, blah. So I went in, I bought it. She's run it, and a partner have run it since day one. I've actually, I can fry fish. It's absolutely piss easy in it. Like, it's so simple.
There's a bit of an art to it, but
There really isn't. There really isn't. Like,
Oh God, right, these two are going to start arguing over this now.
so now I've just left it to her, and it's basically it's hers. I don't have nothing to do with it. It's hers. She gets whatever money she gets. I get fuck all. And
Sounds like a really good investment, Simon.
one of my best ones. But it's give her something. Do you know what I mean? It's give my little sister something to do and a job.
So when fast forward, me and my dad opened this fish and chip shop in
I'm
Pudsey.
really sorry to interrupt,
Go on,
but I
go on,
can't
go on.
believe you said there's a bit of a knack to frying a fish. Like, it is proper.
No, I
Dip
don't
it,
mean
drop it, flip
frying.
it
I mean
out.
everything all together, like sourcing the right ingredients, the right batter, seasoning it, using water at right temperature, using right fat, keeping it filtered.
Absolutely easy.
You're talking to Jamie Oliver over here
Yeah.
now. Yeah, it's like
So yeah,
but Matt, it's proper easy. Like, you could walk back, get yourself one of them silly hats, yeah? And like, within 5 minutes, you think you've done it 10 years. Honestly, it's so easy. that was one of my like best things of having that fish up is I actually went in, did my own chips, my own fish, and did it all myself and then ate it, and it was
did you rumble taters and
It was
everything?
bloody lovely.
Did you rumble?
Absolutely
Did you do
lovely.
your own taters, cut your own fish?
Everything from scratch.
Good lad.
So do you know when like
Everything.
you put the fish in and it's completely like it's uncooked in it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just through that quick frying process of like 5 minutes.
A minute either side.
So that actually thoroughly
Cooks it,
cooks
yeah.
the fish, does it?
Yeah.
You can eat it after. In fact, in theory, you could eat it a lot less. That's to cook
Yeah.
it through. A minute each side. 2 minutes of fish.
Yeah,
2
that's
minutes.
wild.
Literally.
Oh, it's
It's very simple in it, but I think now bills, utilities.
yeah, and I'll get
Killing
on.
it.
Yeah,
Killing
and
it.
I'll get onto that in a little while. So yeah, 2011, me and my dad opened Wilson's Family Fisheries in Pudsey. Obviously, it was first foray into like business, and it went really, really well. We had good support from the local community. We were knocking out fantastic fish and chips. But around that time, I think I'd started struggling a little bit with the big change up I'd had in my life. I'd gone from being this footloose, fancy-free individual who could just fuck off at drop of an hat to fast forward 6 months. I've now got 2 kids. I've got a house. I'd ended up buying a fucking dog as well.
Sounds very familiar.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know, like subliminally, I don't think I were coping. So that's when the partying started. I don't think it helped at the time that I was surrounded by a group of friends that didn't probably have my best intentions at heart. They saw someone who had a little bit of money behind them that liked to party, and it were like, oh, well, he's always got money. He's always got, you know.
Back in there, I'd have loved people like you.
Yeah, like
Loved it.
yeah, and I was one of those who.
Bit reckless. Spend willy-nilly.
Yeah, and I were always giving more than I would like. I used to give way more than I used to take.
Yeah.
Like, and people used to do very, very little for me that I did a lot for.
I think
Life in general.
Yeah, I think back in the day, that type of scene, that's just how it was. I think you always had your spongers, and you always had the people that went out, put the work in, did the graft, got the money, bought the drugs, the gear and stuff.
Not beer
Yeah.
or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was doing. I mean, I'd be working. So me and my dad had split work at the chippy, so I'd do like 4 days a week, out of the 6, and then the next week he'd do 4. And honestly, I just couldn't wait for the weekend to come. And you know what? Robin probably admits this now, but she probably shot herself in the foot by being so lenient, by still saying, yeah, you've got 2 kids, yeah, you've got this house to pay for, yeah, you've got this, but you can still go out and do what you want. And I did. I used to go out, and I'd go out Friday. I couldn't wait. I was one of those, and this probably will resonate with some people watching, or it's either you or someone you know. I couldn't wait for Friday.
Live for the weekend.
Living for the fucking
Weekend warrior.
Literally, I would finish work, and it literally got to the stage. This is how bad it was. It got to the stage where my dealer would come in the fish and chip shop, and he would literally he'd buy a bag of chips and he'd drop it off with me in the chippy, so that I didn't even have to go get it after work. And a lot of the time I'd start before I'd even finished the shift. So as soon as that bag got delivered, I was downstairs racking a couple of lines up, getting myself G'd up. Last few hours of frying,
G'd up.
and then I'd be out. I'd be out all weekend.
I think when you take drugs, like especially like party drugs, coke, whatever it is, if you take them at work, fruit day, by yourself, that's when you've got a problem. That's definitely when you've got a problem.
Yeah, and you'll
Like
and
that's
you'll
not getting ready for weekend. That
No.
is, I've
And
got
by
an
the way,
addiction
can I
here.
just add like a little bit onto this? Like, in no stretch of the imagination are we condoning drug taking or anything like that.
No, if anything, we want people to learn from the mistakes we've made.
100%. Like, I'd never change it because I think it's character building, and some of the stuff that I've been through has made me the person that I am today. But I was very reckless with it, took many unnecessary risks. And still off the back of that, probably had some of the best nights of my entire life.
Oh,
I've
yeah,
met some
undoubtedly.
amazing people, but it was slightly different. See, coke was never a thing for me. It was ecstasy.
Yeah.
So when I started going out clubbing and stuff, and I still remember, I think I was about 15, 16 when I took the first ever one, and I still remember it to this day. It was at Delaney's. I don't know if you remember Delaney's, but it was down there, Chapel Town, sort of down that way. And it was just like a little Irish bar above, and they used to play the bass line and stuff, and they used to let underage drinkers in. There were a lot of underage drinkers. And that was the first time that I ever dabbled in it. But what I will say is, it really did bring walls down. Well, you know, I used to go to some clubs and some parties and stuff, and, you know, before that or after that, it was very volatile. And what I mean by that is you'd have like white people in one corner, Asian in another corner, black in another corner, and it'd just be like, and then you just have the women dancing in the dance floor, and that's how it used to be. And then when ecstasy come along,
Everybody's the best mates.
it brought down those social barriers.
It's a love drug.
Yeah, sorry, 100%, and that's what it was. You know, I still remember to this day. There was a guy called Johnny Morrison who was like a really well-known character, and I was in the middle of the dance floor in Warehouse with my arm around him, going, come on, mate, you know, like loved up, and all my mates were going, you're mental, do you know who that is, blah blah blah. But you didn't give a damn because it just broke down all these social barriers, and you had the best time ever, and people were just so loved up. And
I think that is generally the impression that people get from drugs. But I think what I hope people take away from what I'm about to tell you is that can spiral really fucking quickly
to the dark side.
To the dark side, where it sucks every ounce of fun you ever used to have from drugs, to the point where it has stripped you so fucking bare there is none of you left.
Yeah.
And Sid will know that.
Yeah, listen.
So
see, I can't relate to you two like that because
Yeah.
I was what I'd probably describe as a recreational user.
Yeah, and that's how 99% of people will start. Like, no one ever sets out taking drugs to be like, I'm going to be a full-blown
Yeah,
crackhead.
listen, mine happened rapid. So I think 21, 22 when I first had anything other than weed. I wouldn't take pills, I wouldn't take coke, didn't like it. It all scared me.
Yeah.
The unknown scared me. I like to be. I didn't used to drink much. I just used to get stoned, and then from like sniffing coke and having that on a weekend thing, to not being able to get coke and being a full blown crackhead, and then studying doc, getting 3 years jail, 6 months.
Yeah.
6
That's
months.
wild, isn't it? That's such a fast
6 months.
transition. But
See,
I never got to that stage. This is why I struggle to
Mine
relate to you
was
both
a
in that sense.
long downhill. Very slow, but very long downhill slope from...
You think when people like, 'cause again, I worked as well, and like you said, you worked.
Yeah.
People like that, you know, if you didn't work and you were off your head all the time, people would look at you and you'd be just some druggy fucking waster.
Yeah.
But because you work and you dress nice and you've got your house, you're still doing the same thing, taking the same
You're a
drug.
functioning drug
They
addict.
just think that, oh, he's just having a bit of fun on a weekend.
Yeah.
Because he's worked all week
So,
or whatever.
so with both of you then, do you think coke was like the gateway drug to then ruining your life?
$1,000,000%.
Yeah.
$1,000,000%.
But see, that could be why then, because that it really wasn't. It was never my forte. That
This is one of them things where, right, so coke, you've had it, I've had it, whatever. When you're having it and it's, you sniff it and you have that buzz, it's ace, it's a good buzz.
Oh,
I'm
it's
not
fu-
going to
yeah.
fucking lie.
I'm not going to sit here and bullshit either. It's
Then
fantastic.
Crack, million times better. The best buzz you've ever had or ever will have in your entire life for about 30 seconds. That is no word of a lie. The best euphoric feeling you will ever experience in your life is when you've got on that pipe and then you blow it out. The cocaine, nothing comes even fucking close. But after the 30 seconds, a minute, that nice feeling,
Chasing
gone.
again.
You've got to get it again.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it got like with me. So yeah, like I say, I'm probably struggling a little bit with adapting to being a family man, and sort of having to sort of clean up myself a little bit. So throughout the years that me and my dad had that fish and chip shop, it were all just recreational, but my tolerance was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'd started off buying, and probably up to that point, I'd probably only ever had what's the street term is bash, which means
about the same.
Yeah, which means it's probably cut 2 to 1. So you've got
20.
Yeah, probably even more. Yeah. And then my tolerance started getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then so did my want to go out, and then it started causing problems in my relationship. So at that time, I was like, do you know what? We'll calm things down. You know, I'll take a step away, and I did. So Chippy, me and my dad had that one, I think, for about 5 years. Dad's in his late 50s now, but he wasn't in the best of health. And listen, let me tell you, fish and chips it's not an old man's game. Lumping sacks of tate is about being on your feet 12 hours a day. It is fucking hard work. And I remember my dad coming to me one weekend and saying, "Look, Matt," he said, "I think I'm done. Like, I wanna sell up. I wanna just go semi-retire." And I went, "Yeah, that's fine." At the time, I were really, really good at it. I mean, I were great with people. So obviously, people coming in at Chippy, like customers, like it were fantastic. Really
you
enjoyed
are a people person.
Yeah,
big time.
definitely. So at the time, I said, right, I've got some money. I want to go it alone.
Mm.
If I'd have sat back and thought about it, probably one of the worst fucking things I could have done.
So why couldn't you have just taken over that shop that you were in at that stage?
I felt like we'd taken that one as far as we could have took it. We'd bought it off a guy who was sort of doing fairly well, and we took it like we were way up there to where we were doing some really, really good money. And I wanted a challenge.
And your own thing, maybe.
Yeah, and I didn't, you know, I never wanted anybody to be able to say, "Oh, you've not really worked hard for this. Your dad's just given you it." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I literally went completely the opposite. Like I went back over to where I was living at the time. I was living in Middleton at the time. I wanted something closer to home. And I wanted a project. I wanted to get my teeth stuck into something, you know, something that I could say I've built from scratch. So I bought at the time it was shut, it was closed down. I bought a really, really run down shithole of a Chippy, and I mean this thing was fucking vile, like awful. Food should not have been prepared in there.
I think some of them where you walk in and you can taste it before you get your food.
Oh, it was
They're generally
minging.
best, man.
So this guy had been shut down by Health and Hygiene. Like his gas range was shot to bits. He had not seen a service in fucking years. So, and again, like Robin had her doubts, but she's like, "Do you know what, Matty? I'm going to support you. If you want to give it a go, you'll give it a go." So we opened it. We were doing really, really well. I got a bit of internet. I got sort of 15 minutes of fame because I were always sort of pushing boundaries and, you know, trying mad shit. One year, I believe it or not, I actually invented the foot-long pig in a blanket.
I've seen the news article myself.
So there were news articles.
I actually
and
went,
again,
shut up, you daft git.
And I was like, no,
But he
honestly, yeah. So, and again, massive regret that I didn't patent that because it's everywhere. Like supermarkets do it now. Like it's all over the place. But yeah, if you don't believe me, just Google my name, and yeah, there'll be articles from I think it was 2018. Literally for about a week solid, we had press in the Chippy every single
Mad over a
day.
bit of sausage.
Yeah, honestly, it was fucking balmy.
Matthew,
But
what sausages to eat?
it couldn't have come at a worse time, because all of a sudden, I mean, we were doing okay even leading up to that, but all of a sudden we were taking between £7,000 and £10,000 a week off the back of that, and £7,000 to £10,000 with someone who's got a drug problem
Till a
is
cokehead.
not a fucking good idea.
Fuel for fire, that, innit?
Yeah. Again, I were off my head most days at work. I was hiding it really, really well though. Again, at the time, I don't think the kids really knew. Robin knew to some extent that I did it on a weekend, but again, it was one of those where it wasn't really affecting home life, so it didn't need to be a conversation that needed to be had.
I can't understand how you could function
It gets worse.
taking
It
that
gets worse.
like through the day and trying to work like, because my sort of experience with it is like you are
Your head's
literally
all over
off
the
your head.
place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like so how you could even function and
Yeah, it's wild. So yeah, at the time, obviously, I'd had all this media furore. We had people coming from all over the country to try us food and try this like magic viral creation. We were doing between 7 and 10 grand a week, and let me tell you, for someone with a coke addiction, that could not have come at a worse fucking time, because it did not help things at all. Sid'll probably attest to this. When you've got a drug problem, you don't see money as money. You see it as drug tokens.
Yeah, nothing, food, bills,
Nothing. Yeah, it just
don't even come into play.
Yeah.
Not even a thought on your mind. It's drugs, worry later.
yeah. And it were a slippery slope from there, leading up to a point. I think it was probably a few months later. I walked myself into hospital one. I'd gone down into Chippy, started prepping early one morning, and yeah, I just walked myself to. I literally drove myself to hospital, walked in, and I said, "If you don't section me now, I'm going to commit suicide," because my mental health had just hit rock. Well, what I thought then was rock bottom. Obviously, I'd had a discussion with some doctors. They let me go. And obviously, I'd spoke to my wife about it. She was really supportive, and she just said, you need to, if things are that bad, you need to leave it all alone. You need to spend some time away. So at that time, I thought, right, now's a really good time to get out of the fish and chip game, and just go get a normal job and see how I go with that. So yeah, sold up, moved on, went and got a normal job, and even then, like the struggles didn't stop there, because for so long, obviously, me and my dad, like, from my kids then growing up, I'd been out at door at like 6 in the morning to go start getting prepped, and the chippies were open till like 8, 9 at night. So by the time we'd cleaned up, drove home, the kids were asleep. So pretty much for a solid 7 or 8 years, I didn't even know my own kids, because I'd just been working non-stop, and I had fuck all to show for it. Like, I'd not saved anything, any spare time I got, because I was so burnt out from working all the time. I was going out partying. And I remember there was a 6-month period in between me starting my lorry driving job when I got my HGV licence and leaving the chippy. Obviously, Robin were working. And I remember the first couple of weeks, I just sat and fucking cried near enough every single day, because I were having to ring her for everything. Like, I was saying, what time do kids have a bath? What do they like to eat? When I knew nothing about my own kids. So at that point, obviously, taken a massive step back, went and got this normal job, started lorry driving for a firm called Tea Quality, who delivered fish and chip supplies, because the guy who was my sales rep said, look, if you're leaving, you've got to stay in the industry. It'd be great to have someone delivering this product that's actually used it, fried with it, knows what it is. So yeah, really enjoyed that for a couple of years. Again, ADHD kicked in, got bored, and ended up starting driving car transporters. Again, which were fantastic for me, because I'd obviously, as you both know, I love my food. And when you're going into fucking 14 different chippies every day and saying, "Oh, Matt, do you want a bit of dinner?" Some of the stuff I used to eat for free were unreal. Like, I could have,
I can imagine.
I could have sausage sandwiches for breakfast, fish and chips for lunch. If I were out till 3, 4 in the afternoon, and I'd make sure my last stop were like one at kebab shops that were just opening. So honestly, I were in such bad shape when I started that job. But yeah, I really, really liked it, because I've always loved cars again, which is probably why us three fucking gel so much, because I'm a massive petrol head. So we're getting to drive all these different cars on and off at Transporter. And yeah, things were going pretty well. Like, we're earning good money. But slowly at that point, the party lifestyle had started to creep back in again.
Why do you think that was? Friends?
Yeah, probably because I'd not distanced myself enough from the people that, again, I didn't know at the time were no good for me.
And that doesn't mean that they're bad people. That
No,
just
it don't
means
mean
that
no, it don't
together
mean
you're
the bad
not-
people. Yeah, it just
you're not
like
doing the
yeah,
right things,
together
innit?
it was just toxic. You know, like I were hanging about with people who gave, and I were probably this to them as well. I was hanging about with people who gave me a bit of a reason to do it, because I wouldn't do it without them, basically. And at the time, I probably wouldn't have done it on my own. So yeah, that party lifestyle had slowly started to creep, but I'd kept on top of it, and it wasn't really a problem. And then in January 2023, like my world fell apart. So I'd been losing weight like crazy amounts, but I thought I'm climbing on and off this lorry all day. I'm strapping cars down. You know, I'm working ridiculous hours. Like, it's bound to happen. You know, you're in a physical job. You're going to lose weight.
Yeah.
And it was the Christmas, so it was Christmas 2022. We were flat out at work, like we're doing crazy hours, trying to get caught up before Christmas so we could have all this time off over Christmas. Come back in January, we still were flat out. And for this couple of weeks in January, I'd felt fucking lousy, like proper awful. But I'm one of these, because I'd always had that self-employed mentality. Unless I were dying, I get up and I go to work. Like, I mean, you two will know there's been times when I've been sat in here coughing my guts up or dying in corner, but unless I'm physically unable to get out of bed, I will be in work. And
That's why we're poorly.
yeah, I gave it to
Flipping idiot.
And I'll never forget at the time, I'd gone into the office one Wednesday and I'd had a really, really long run, and I'll never forget him. He's one of the, like, I genuinely have hated working for most people, barring you and Sid. And this one other bloke, was one of the best managers I've ever had. Like, genuinely cared about the people who worked for him, not just getting the job done, but like genuinely gave a shit about his lads. And there's a lad called Jason Chilton who I still speak to this day. And I'd walked in and I must have looked fucking awful this Wednesday, and he went, "Fuck me, Matt, you look grey. Cue the jokes."
It's not needed, man. Everyone can see. It's
So
not needed.
obviously I initially thought like he's just having a bit of laugh, and he's like, "Do you feel all right?" I went, "Well, not really, mate." No, I said, "I felt shit for a couple of weeks now." He went, "Mate, you look fucking awful." He says, "Do me a favour, if you still look like that Thursday, Friday, do not come in. I'll sort it out, but do not come in." He says, "Because you look awful." And at the time we were having a load of building work done to our house. Like the whole top floor of our house was uninhabitable. So we were living with my mother-in-law while all this building work got done. So I'd called my wife and I'd said, "Look," he sent me home. He said, "I am feeling shit." I said, "What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to house." I said, "I'll sleep downstairs, let builders in tomorrow, and then I'll come back to your mum's and we'll just have a nice chilled out weekend." As the days went on, so Thursday I felt really bad. Friday, I'd probably not pooed for about 3 or 4 days at this point. So I just thought, I'm a bit constipated. That's all it is. Couldn't sleep all Friday night, and I woke up Saturday and I have never felt as ill in my life. Like, I felt like I was dying. Turns out I was. So Saturday, I collapsed in my mother-in-law's kitchen. They somehow managed to get this fucking great big lump of a dead weight back in my wife's car. Drove me to hospital, and they did some blood tests immediately, and they were like, "You've got sepsis, like, bad. Like, we don't understand how you're still alive now." He said the toxin levels in you.
To have that, you are lucky to be sat where you are today.
Oh, massively, because I know sepsis has taken like a lot of people very, very quickly.
Yeah, there was Dean. I'm sure his name was Dean, who used to run Stinky's Peep House, and he was one of the DJs there, and he got sepsis, and they took like, I think it was his, I can't remember if it were his leg or his arm or something. But
it's
and his
sepsis.
hand.
Sepsis is one of these. It is unforgiving. It don't care whether you're young, old,
Nah, it got my mum.
fit, healthy. Like, it will ravage your body. So they'd done these blood tests and said, "Look, if we need to get you into theatre, like, right the fuck now, because you could literally die now." So literally from there, I was put straight to sleep, and at the time they thought my appendix had gone. woke up from what I thought was going to be an appendix operation, and said, I remember sort of coming round and there was a nurse.
Is this where they said we've accidentally took your balls off?
No.
No. All right, sorry.
No, I've still got them. Well, Robin's still got them. They're in her handbag.
In a purse.
Yeah, she went, whip them off while you're in there. But yeah, I remember sort of coming round and looking at the nurse, and I said, oh, has it gone then, my appendix? And she just sort of rolled her eyes and walked away, and I thought, oh, fuck. Is this where they're going to tell me, like, I've got this sort of, like, I've got cancer or some, like, weird incurable disease? Surgeon came round, who is still my specialist to this day, Adam Peckham Cooper. Forever grateful to him because he genuinely did save my life. Very, very, I told him from the get-go, I'm a fucking straight-talking bloke. Like, I'd just sooner know, don't dilly-dally, don't be trying, just give me the fucking news. He said, did you know you had a really badly diseased bowel? I'm like, absolutely no fucking idea, mate. Like, it's news to me. So he said the reason you were so ill and the reason you hadn't pooed is because we reckon for probably about 4 days you'd been shitting in your own bloodstream. He said your bowel had just completely exploded, perforated, and that's what was giving you the sepsis. Like, you were basically shitting in your own bloodstream for about 4 days. So he said, we've tried fixing your bowel as best we can, but it were bad. I've got to give you a chance to try and recover, but I don't think it's going to work. He said, do you know what a stoma is? And I went, never even heard of one. He said, I'd start reading. And at that point, I think I knew what were coming. Obviously, I think I were in hospital nearly a month. And I think a week after that first operation, I ended up being rushed back in again because the sepsis levels were creeping up. And probably, I think it were about an 8 or 9 hour operation. Literally cut from top to toe, and woke up with a bag for life, as they say.
And not one from Asda?
Not a Tesco one, yeah. This one cost...
Yeah. Bag for life.
So, yeah, it took a lot of getting used to. It took a lot of getting my head round. I was on a ward. The ward I was on, there were a bloke called David Jewett, again, who I'm really good friends with now, and I still speak to him on a day, probably weekly, monthly basis. He actually had a stoma and sort of taught me a lot about... Because if it hadn't been for him, mate, I'd have been even more in the dark.
He basically had experienced it, it and give you...
Yeah, so he was...
Tell you what were coming and what
basically, and what to expect.
Put your mind at ease a bit?
Yeah, it did. But I were in a really dark fucking place. You imagine I'd probably been in best physical shape in my life. I were earning really good money to being told you're probably not going to work for the best part of a year. You're going to have to claim benefits, which I'd never done before. That sent me into an even deeper spiral. But that's when I turned back to the drugs. But then at this point, I was hiding it from everybody I could because it was the only way I could cope. At the time, it was the only way I thought I could cope. Because I didn't like this reality. I didn't like this reality having to fucking claim benefits. I were having to have nurses come to see me at my home all the time. Like, I heard people, "Oh, you all right? You all right?" And I'm not one of these who needs. Like, I just like to be left the fuck alone and do my own thing.
I like that.
So
just leave me alone.
And at this point, the drugs had well and truly crept back in, and I think I've never had this conversation with the kids, but I think because obviously my kids were quite a bit older at this point, I think they knew something was up at this point. I was hiding it from my wife. I was lying about money all the time. And bear in mind, this is at a point where we've already not got a pot to piss in because I'd gone from earning like $3,500-4 grand a month to being on benefits.
A few £100.
So, yeah, I mean, and again, it were a time in my life where I were borrowing money off my mum, my brothers, my friends, and then just lying to them about paying it back.
I was bad for that.
Yeah, and you burn so many bridges.
You could sell anything to anybody.
Oh, yeah.
When you needed that money to fund your habit, you could literally make your mouth say anything to get what you want.
100%, yeah. I mean, I know I already had the gift of the gab, so a bit like you, so it just came naturally. Just lying to people to get money for drugs just came naturally.
Too easy, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
Too easy.
And I think, I remember the last time I ever did it. I think Robin had taken kids out for a day, and I'd secretly thought, right, and this is how the mind of an addict works. You plan your day around your drugs. So I knew the day before that she were going to be taking kids out and she were going to be out most of the day. It was just going to be me and dogs and I'd be sound. So I'd gone and got it the night before. I'd hidden it. I'd done really well not to touch it because, again, if you've had any addictions, if you know you've got drugs in the house.
Couldn't happen with me, but...
Yeah. I'd hidden it and I'd got this day planned. I thought, right, well, if I have my first scoot at about 10 o'clock as soon as they leave, I can rattle through this like 3.5 grams that I got. And obviously by this point, obviously, that addiction had gone way past like little bags of bash. I'm talking like, it's what they call flake on street. So it's like the rock form of cocaine. It's like not pure, but it's as pure as you're going to get on street.
Buzz is 10 times different in it.
Yeah, massively. But at this point, obviously, I think the addiction had gone so far that I wasn't even like one of these buzzy, chatty people when I take it. It had just got to the stage where I was like,
a little hermit.
Yeah. I'd just sit gurning. I couldn't talk. I was paranoid. Like I always thought someone were trying to break into house, so I'd sit up all night watching CCTV cameras, thinking people were trying to break into my house. Any little bang I heard, I wouldn't sleep for days. I wouldn't eat for days. And yeah, I remember this time she'd gone out and she come back, and yeah, she could tell. Like I'd taken it way too far. I think I'd rattled through that 3.5 grams probably in about 2 hours. Which, if you know how much that is, you'll know that's a heart attack inducing amount.
It is a flake, yeah.
She'd come home and she knew I were off my face, and I think at that point, it were already touch and go in my health anyway. And at that point, she gave me the ultimatum and said, "It's me or the drugs."
Yeah.
She said, you've hidden it from me for countless times. You've told me you're going to stop. And again, I were at such a low ebb. I hated my life. I didn't want out to do with this stoma. I didn't like sort of the image that I now had of this fucking disabled. Well, that's because that's how I viewed myself. I'm just a disabled person now. And, it literally...
Good parking spots, though.
Great parking.
I noticed somebody had actually stole ours. I'm not happy about that myself.
So yeah, and there were a number of things going on at that time, probably that led me to sort of use drugs as a coping mechanism. So my wife was, unfortunately, she's not a very well person either. She's got her own health complications. She's got a condition called functional neurological disease, which basically like mimics the symptoms of MS. So there's days where she can't get out of bed, days where she needs a lot more help around the house and stuff like that. And yeah, when it all came to a head, I thought, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I'd been there for my kids, but I'd been completely absent because most of the time I were absolutely off my cake and were trying to hide myself away. I'd not been a great husband. I'd not been a great dad. And I really didn't like the direction my life had taken. I thought, I've got to like my early 30s, and I thought, what the fuck have I got to show for it? I've had all these successful businesses and I've blasted all money away. Like, what? And that was the fucking turning point. That was a massive turning point where I said, no more now.
Yeah.
I went and got professional help. Went to an organisation called Forward Leads, who were absolutely fantastic. Really helped me understand why I was doing what I was doing. And yeah, turned like literally. And if anybody takes anything away from this, he's probably going to be the next bit. So I'd gone from this absolute fucking mess of a human being, like an absolute shell, shit dad, shit husband, crap friend, within 9-10 months. Obviously started working for you guys, following our accidental battery meeting.
Yeah.
Obviously I'm putting my skills to use that I've developed over years. Obviously, like my background in TV and radio, which have all sort of come to the fore here, and I think fit really well. We're a good, we all sort of gel really well as personalities because we're all very different.
Not too bad. Like. I wouldn't say that good, but we're not too bad.
Just to put some context around that battery situation as well, just because some people may not know. So what it was, I was doing a live drawing at the time. I think Sid wasn't here. I was on my own. And I'd forgot to go to the shop and get batteries for the microphone packs.
and I was waiting
Still
up.
happens to this day.
Yeah, I think I was waiting up to go on all. I think I was flying to Portugal, and I think I was waiting because my mate was taking us to airport, so I was waiting up. I didn't want to go to bed, and I was watching live draw like I did most Wednesdays anyway. And I messaged the page and said, "Look, if you need some batteries, I can fly over and bring you some because I'm still about." And yeah, we just sort of kept in touch from there, really, didn't we? And sort of started off with little sort of odd jobs here and there, and because I think at the time, I wasn't working, so we're just doing sort of little odd jobs, and it just sort of spiraled from there, didn't it? Really?
Yeah.
But yeah, fast forward to sort of a year of being away from that lifestyle, away from those drugs. Obviously, I've secured this job with All Star. In that time as well, I'd also set up my own business, so I've got a vintage and designer clothing business. Again, which is just going from strength to strength to strength. I mean, I started off selling on Vinted, just spending a little bit of money I had on like buying odd, when I spotted a deal on Vinted, I thought, I can flip that for a few quid. And then that sort of passion grew because I've always had a passion for like clothes and out there fashion and stuff like that. And yeah, started a business. And business is going from strength to strength. I think I'm on course to turn over $250,000 in my first year. And
we'll have to reevaluate his paper.
Listen, what's that saying? Turnover is vanity, profit is sanity. Yeah, so turnover and profit are two completely different things, kids. But yeah, if I want anybody to take anything away from like my story, is if you're in a similar position, and I know there is lads out there, and there's lads that I used to knock about with who are still to this day, they will deny that they've got problems because they live, again, started how I started, live for weekend. It very, very quickly spirals, and it takes control straight out of your hands. And if anybody can take away anything, it is once you put that powder down, look what you can achieve.
Yeah, definitely.
Because honestly, I've been, and my kids will tell you, my wife will tell you, the change in you as a person once you stop doing that is phenomenal. You are all of a sudden, you're an attentive dad. You're a better husband. You're a better lover. You're a better friend. Like everything just improves. And you think to yourself, I mean, and I still do to this day. Sid's probably had this moment where you sort of sit back and you look, you have a quick look at your bank and you think, money at bank, driving a nice car, all my bills are paid, and it's like, why the fuck did I waste so many years of having no money and being a shit dad and I could have had this 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's frightening, but I know, and there's a massive thing at the minute with lads who end up taking their own lives due to what they call session depression. They've hit it a bit hard over the weekend. It's widely, you see it all over social media. It's almost glamorized now. Is the taking a coke, and people make a laugh and a joke about it. And all I will say is, if you're one of them lads, just listen to the shit that I've had to deal with, and make that decision to change your life, because honestly, that party lifestyle is leading you nowhere.
Yeah. So, yeah, there we go. So, obviously, we've heard from all three of us now, myself, Sid, and Matt 2.0 today. So, that is basically the introduction to the faces behind All Star. And I wanted to thank each and every single person that sat and watched these first two episodes, because as you've seen, there's things that have been said that have not been said in public before.
Definitely not.
And it takes a lot to come on here and to open up, especially in front of each other, not just people that are watching the video. But yeah, moving forward after this, so within the next couple of hours, actually, we've got our first proper guests that are coming onto the show.
Very excited.
Yeah, really excited. We've got the two sisters from Homeless Street Angels, which is going to be a very, very interesting conversation. We've been securing other guests as well, people that own funeral homes, through to
sports people,
people that have lost lost children and then gone on to set up amazing charities. There's so many really fantastic things that are going to be coming up over the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned, subscribe. Thank you very much to everybody that's been watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.
Ciao,
Cheers.
ciao.